Chapter 11:20. He took a deep breath. Until now, Longao still wasn't sure what the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls was. According to Long Fu, the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls contained 9 different types of energy. It was extremely powerful. Long Tian had only swallowed 2 types of energy back then, and his strength had skyrocketed. One could imagine how powerful the liquid was. Longao was a little curious. If the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls was so powerful, why didn't Long Tian keep it and swallow it slowly for a few months, or even a year or 2? At that time, his strength would skyrocket and he could even leap 1,000 miles. Before the blood was dripped into his veins, Longao still asked the question in his heart. "Master, there's something you don't know." Long Fu sighed deeply. Of course, he knew his master's question the best. "Master, you can't swallow too much of the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls. It has to be determined by your condition. If you swallow too much, the consequences will be unimaginable." "I see." Longao finally knew the reason. It turned out that the condition didn't allow it. It wasn't that Long Tian didn't want to, but if he gave up such a rare opportunity, wouldn't he be a fool? "Master, what are you going to do?" From the beginning to the end, Long Fu didn't know what his master was going to do. This made Long Fu feel very uncomfortable. "I want to try my blood and see what happens after dripping it." "Master." He waved his hand. Without giving Long Fu any chance to speak, Longao said, "I've made up my mind." Long Fu didn't say anything else. As for Longao, he stretched out his right hand and forced a drop of blood. Drip. The blood flowed along the stone bowl into the liquid. Longao thought that something earth-shattering would happen because of the blood connection, but the result? When the blood entered the liquid, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There wasn't even a trace of a ripple. This made Longao very depressed. What was going on? Bai Ling, Xiling, it doesn't seem to work. Big Brother Long, try dripping it all into the 9 huge stone bowls. How could Longao not know what Bai Ling meant? Without any hesitation, Longao dripped his blood into the remaining 8 huge stone bowls. It was still calm. Just as Longao was about to take a look, the 9 huge stone bowls suddenly emitted an ear-piercing sound. Before Longao could react, the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls had already begun to churn like boiling water. Longao hastily took 3 steps back. It seemed that his blood really had something to do with the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls. Not to mention Longao, even Long Fu was similarly shocked. 9 huge stone bowls. Every single one of them shot out a beam of light. 9 different colors of light interweaved with each other, making for a very strange sight. In the next second, Longao could clearly sense that he had been enveloped by 9 strange and powerful auras. They had even cut off his connection with Long Fu, Bai Ling, and Xiling. He did not dare to act rashly because he did not know whether the 9 auras that had locked onto him were friends or foes. 9 streams of aura instantly entered Longao's body and went on a rampage. It was as if external enemies had come in to sweep. Longao still did not dare to act rashly. However, at this moment, Longao was shocked to find that the 9 mysterious auras had entered his body and had begun to attack his blood vessels. Lin Fan was shocked. This was not good. If his blood vessels were attacked, he could die at any time. This time, he entered the massacre abyss to improve his strength, not to court death. Just as Longao was about to counterattack, his eyes closed and he directly fell to the ground, unconscious. If others were to know that he had fainted at this time, they would probably be shocked speechless. This was completely the rhythm of courting death. He lay quietly on the ground of the cave. Longao had no idea what was happening outside. Whether he was alive or dead, he had already handed it over. Just as Longao fainted, the 9 mysterious auras immediately withdrew. Next, the wordless book in Longao's body shot out and stopped in midair above the 9 stone bowls. It was like a king had descended and was looking down at the 9 stone bowls. If Longao was awake and saw this scene, who knew what would happen? The wordless book shot out a dazzling light. Then, a young man who looked exactly like Longao appeared. The young man looked exactly like Longao. However, The young man had a cold face and his entire body was emitting an aura of a king. Looking at the 9 stone bowls in front of him, the young man seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, as if he had something on his mind. Time passed bit by bit. After an unknown period of time, a heavy sigh was heard. This is faster than I thought. It was difficult to make a decision. In the end, the young man made up his mind and said to himself, "What will come will come. I hope we can succeed this time." Otherwise, at this point, the young man did not continue speaking. The young man's figure disappeared and returned to the wordless book. Then, the wordless book turned into a ray of light and disappeared into Longao's body. Traces of power entered Longao's body from the 9 huge stone bowls. Following that, a shocking scene occurred. The 9 huge stone bowls that were there just now suddenly disappeared. Peace was restored. From the beginning to the end, Long Fu, Xiling, and Bai Ling did not see the young man's appearance and the disappearance of the 9 stone bowls. They were separated by the terrifying aura. One could imagine how powerful the young man in the wordless book was. Long Fu, Xiling, and Bai Ling's figures all appeared. The 3 of them looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. Although they did not know what had just happened, the 3 of them knew very well that the disappearance of the 9 stone bowls must have something to do with Longao. Things are not simple. It seems that Longao's bloodline is a little. Xiling did not continue because she did not know how to describe Longao's bloodline. It was too powerful and too strange. I also guessed that Master's bloodline was not simple, but I never thought that it would be so powerful that it could forcibly absorb the liquid in the 9 stone bowls. Long Fu also looked like he wanted to say something but stopped because even he did not know that Longao's bloodline was so strange and powerful. "Sister, is Brother Long all right?" In Bai Ling's heart, it did not matter whether Longao's bloodline was strange or powerful, as long as Longao was fine. This was Bai Ling's character. She was kind beyond words. Moreover, Bai Ling had already started to like Longao. At this moment, Bai Ling would rather have something happen to herself than let anything happen to Longao. Xiling sighed. How could she not know what her sister was thinking? Chapter 11:21. I don't know. Even her sister didn't know. Bai Ling was very worried. After an unknown amount of time, Longao slowly woke up. Looking at the 3 figures in front of him, Longao was very surprised. He didn't know why he had fainted out of nowhere. What happened? Before Longao could finish his sentence, his expression changed abruptly. His face was filled with disbelief. This was because the 9 huge stone bowls in front of him had disappeared without a trace. Bai Ling, what happened? Bai Ling shook her head helplessly and said, "I don't know either." "You don't know?" At this moment, Xiling said, "Longao, when you dripped your blood into the 9 huge stone bowls, 9 terrifying forces suddenly shot out and forcibly cut us off. Therefore, we don't know what happened next." Looking at Long Fu and Xiling standing together, Longao was even more surprised. However, under such circumstances, he could only focus on the 9 huge stone bowls. Why did they suddenly disappear? Brother Long, what happened to you? Hearing Longao's sudden roar, everyone was shocked. They didn't know what had happened to Longao. Gold grade Great Emperor Realm? How did his cultivation reach the gold grade Great Emperor Realm? Feeling the powerful force coming from his body, Longao was a little dumbfounded. Because his cultivation was only at the purple grade Great Emperor Realm. How did he break through from the purple grade Great Emperor Realm to the peak of the gold grade Great Emperor Realm in just a few hours? He was only one step away from officially becoming a titled Great Emperor. Due to the sudden disappearance of the 9 huge stone bowls, everyone, including Longao, didn't pay attention to it. Now, hearing Longao's surprised voice, the 3 of them could already sense the changes in Longao's body. In such a short time, he had increased by 2 levels. What did this mean? Even the 3 of them had no idea what was going on. "Master, it seems like your opportunity has come. If I'm not mistaken, the reason why your cultivation base could break through from the purple grade Great Emperor Realm to the gold grade Great Emperor Realm in such a short time is because of the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls. He nodded. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao had already guessed what had happened. Did he absorb the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls? If he hadn't seen Xiling and Bai Ling nod their heads, Longao wouldn't have been able to confirm his suspicions. He was so shocked that he didn't know what had just happened. Why had he absorbed the liquid from the 9 giant stone bowls for no reason? What should I do now? Master, we can only take one step at a time. But now, it seems that the liquid in the 9 huge stone bowls is very beneficial to you. There would definitely be benefits, and they would be huge. Being able to break through from the purple grade Great Emperor realm to the peak of the gold grade Great Emperor realm in an instant meant that he had obtained great benefits. Brother Long, the bloodline in your body. Seeing Bai Ling's hesitant look, Longao asked curiously, Bai Ling, what's wrong? Just as Bai Ling was about to speak, Xiling waved his hand and said, Longao, the bloodline in your body isn't simple. Your bloodline forcefully cut us off just now. So, we don't know what happened just now. Regarding this point, Longao had already thought of it. Longao had never been clear about his own bloodline. He only knew one thing, and that was that his bloodline was forcefully sealed. As for who sealed it, it was still unknown. Seeing that Longao didn't speak, Long Fu shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Even he didn't know what had happened. He could only return to the dragon seal space. Longao, you, Xiling didn't finish his words. He pulled Bai Ling's hand and turned into 2 streams of flowing light, disappearing from the cave. Only Longao was left in the huge cave. It was empty. The 9 huge stone bowls had disappeared. From the beginning to the end, no one told him what had happened. As for him, he had been unconscious for so long. It was even more impossible for him to know what had happened. He didn't continue to dwell on it. No matter what, his cultivation had increased tremendously after entering the cave. If it was any other time, it wouldn't be easy to break through from the purple grade Great Emperor realm to the gold grade Great Emperor realm. It would be a lie if he said he wasn't excited. Longao was no exception. His cultivation had successfully broken through, and the 9 huge stone bowls had disappeared. There wasn't much meaning in staying here. As for the bloodline, just as Long Fu had said, he would take it one step at a time. With the help of Long Fu's power, Longao's figure disappeared from the cave and reappeared in the massacre abyss. Looking at the corpses everywhere and everyone fighting crazily, Longao shook his head helplessly. The massacre abyss, from a certain perspective, was not a bad place. Here, you could release yourself to your heart's content. As long as you had the strength, you could do whatever you wanted. Even if you died, it would be a crazy death. Longao didn't stay any longer. He didn't have much time to waste here. If there was a day when he wanted to vent, this was indeed the best place. Longao had just left the massacre abyss when he sensed that someone had locked onto his position. Without guessing, he already knew who was looking for trouble. The female Yaksha. If it was the previous Longao, he would more or less be afraid of the female Yaksha. No matter what, the female Yaksha's strength was there for all to see. A titled Great Emperor wasn't someone to be trifled with. But now, the situation was completely different. His cultivation had successfully broken through from the purple grade Great Emperor realm to the gold grade Great Emperor realm. Even if he were to face a titled Great Emperor martial artist, Longao had full confidence that he could kill a titled Great Emperor martial artist with his current strength. Since things had already developed to this point, Longao didn't want to drag things out any longer. Otherwise, with someone locking onto him, who knew how much trouble it would bring to him. Female Yaksha, since you're here, why don't you come out and meet me? Mph, kid, you're really to my liking. The female Yaksha walked out with a cold smile. Beside the female Yaksha was a burly middle-aged man. It wasn't clear if the burly middle-aged man did it on purpose, but his body emitted a powerful aura that lingered for a long time. Longao was shocked because he could clearly sense that the burly middle-aged man beside the female Yaksha was a demigod. With his current strength, such an expert wasn't easy to deal with. Kid, are you scared? The female Yaksha smiled coquettishly and purposely played with the burly man's arm. The two of them looked like a cheating couple. I'm scared. Longao sneered. His face was filled with disdain and contempt. In the end, the female Yaksha thought that he was easy to bully and didn't give her face, so she didn't let him go. Chapter 11:22. Brat, do you not know how to spell the word death? The burly man's face was cold. He didn't take the other party seriously at all. Longao purposely released his aura. Because of this, both the female Yaksha and the burly man looked down on him. A gold-grade great emperor martial artist. Such a martial artist was just a piece of *T to the two of them. If they wanted to deal with him, it would be a matter of minutes. Who are you? Hao Dachuan. Get lost. Hao Dachuan and the female Yaksha never thought that the other party would suddenly say such a thing. Their faces were instantly enraged. Killing intent shot out in all directions and directly enveloped Longao. Brother Hao, there's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Nodding, Hao Dachuan took 3 steps back. Brat. Before the female Yaksha could speak, Longao dashed out. Before he arrived, his terrifying aura had already suppressed them. Aura of heaven and earth. Feeling the powerful aura released by the other party, the two of them shouted in fear. They knew very well what the aura of heaven and earth meant. Could it be that the other party was a Nirvana martial artist? Impossible, this was completely impossible. The female Yaksha was a titled Great Emperor martial artist. Her realm was higher than Longao's. However, the aura of heaven and earth that Longao released disturbed the female Yaksha's state of mind. Once a martial artist's state of mind was disturbed, their strength would be reduced. Moreover, the female Yaksha was fighting with Longao. Unlike other martial artists, Longao wanted to end the battle quickly and was prepared to kill in one hit. Longao knew clearly that if he couldn't kill in one hit, it would give the burly man a chance. No matter what, Hao Dachuan was a demigod martial artist. It wouldn't be easy to defeat him. 9th heaven of demigod realm. According to the classification of realms, the order of strength from lowest to highest was 1st heaven demigod realm, 2nd heaven demigod realm, 3rd heaven demigod realm, 4th heaven demigod realm, 5th heaven demigod realm, 6th heaven demigod realm, 7th heaven demigod realm, 8th heaven demigod realm, and 9th heaven demigod realm. Above the 9th heaven demigod realm was the true supreme Tao realm. The sword Qi merged into his fists. Longao and the female Yaksha's fists fiercely collided, sparks flew everywhere. Under normal circumstances, gold-grade great emperors were no match for titled great emperors. However, Longao's situation was completely different. With a single punch, the female Yaksha's body was sent flying. Like a kite with a broken string, the female Yaksha smashed him to death with a single punch. The hag was dead. Longao did not hold back at all in this punch. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible for Longao to kill the female Yaksha with one punch. In such a situation, Longao first released the aura of heaven and earth, causing the female Yaksha's mental state to become chaotic. With the help of this, Longao merged the sword Dao into his fists. With luck and strength, he smashed the female Yaksha to death with one punch. The hag was dead. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Hao Dachuan was shocked. Black Wolf, you. He snorted coldly. Without giving Hao Dachuan any chance to speak, Longao sneered and said, "If you want to fight, then fight. If not, scram." One had to admit that Longao was very arrogant. Even if the person standing in front of him was a demigod, he still did not give a damn. If this matter were to spread out, would anyone believe it? A gold-grade great emperor would dare to provoke a demigod unless his brain was flooded with water. The more confident and arrogant Black Wolf was, the more uncertain Hao Dachuan was. Could it be that the other party was really fearless? Moreover, He Lang had just killed the female Yaksha with a single punch. His strength was clear for all to see. Hao Dachuan knew that even he himself wouldn't be able to kill a titled great emperor with a single punch. The strength of the female Yaksha was there for all to see. Black Wolf, do you know the consequences of killing the female Yaksha? Longao did not speak. His face was filled with disdain and disdain. So what if he was a demigod? If he was a demigod, not to mention a gold-grade Great Emperor. Even if the opponent was a divine-grade Great Emperor, he would still fight. Black Wolf, it seems that you still don't know about the Massacre Abyss. Nonsense. Hao Dachuan did not seem to be angry at all. He sneered and said, the Massacre Abyss has 5 Abyss Masters. The Eastern Abyss Master has 4 Heavenly Kings under him. The female Yaksha is the Western Heavenly King's mistress. Although Hao Dachuan did not finish his words, the meaning in his words was very clear. 4 Heavenly Kings. Longao was not very clear about the matters of the Massacre Abyss. He only knew that there were 5 Abyss Masters in the Massacre Abyss and they were in charge of it together. Although he did not know, Longao was very clear that the 4 Heavenly Kings under the Abyss Master must be divine-grade Great Emperors. If that was the case, it would be very troublesome. Seeing that Black Wolf did not speak, Hao Dachuan thought that the other party was afraid. When he was about to continue talking nonsense, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. Just like that, he disappeared into thin air. What on earth happened? Hao Dachuan did not know how the other party did it and how he could disappear without a trace. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. A mere gold-grade Great Emperor could not only kill the female Yaksha with one punch, but also disappear without a trace. From the beginning to the end, Hao Dachuan never thought that the other party would dare to take the initiative to attack. Even if the other party could kill the female Yaksha with one punch, a gold-grade Great Emperor was still a gold-grade Great Emperor. The gap between him and a demigod was too big. They were not on the same level at all. Could it be that the other party really had the strength to deal with him? The aura of heaven and earth merged into the sword aura, enveloping Hao Dachuan with absolute suppression. Before Hao Dachuan could react, Longao had already appeared behind him. Without any warning, he threw out a punch. The fist force was like a rolling sea that could topple mountains and overturn seas. He was startled. A demigod was a demigod after all. Once one's cultivation broke through to the demigod realm, their soul would slowly transform into a divine soul. However, there were some differences between the demigod realm and the divine path. In the demigod realm, one's divine soul would not completely transform, which was the so-called half-spirit and half-divine soul. Even so, Hao Dachuan's senses were far beyond a great emperor's. He clearly knew how terrifying the other party's punch was. The previous example was a good example. Even Hao Dachuan did not dare to meet force with force. He hastily dodged. Longao's speed was too fast. In addition, Hao Dachuan was a little slow. Although he dodged, he was still swept to the side. Cold sweat poured down. Hao Dachuan let out a long sigh of relief and said impatiently, "Wait, Black Wolf, there is no life or death grudge between you and me. There is no need for things to escalate to this stage. I, Hao Dachuan, will not care about the grudge between you and the female Yaksha. There is no need for us to be enemies. Friends, your sister. P.S. The 8th chapter has been delivered. 9 chapters have erupted today. The last chapter will be updated later. Everyone, please count your votes." Chapter 11:23. Not an enemy, but a friend. If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Longao wouldn't find any trouble for himself. Hao Dachuan didn't look like a good person at first glance. If he didn't fight, he would probably have endless troubles in the future. A dragon roar sounded. Before Hao Dachuan could react, a giant dragon shadow had appeared behind Longao. Innate ability, Dragon Roar. In the Massacre Abyss, even if he used his innate ability, what could he do? The flow of the surrounding space changed abruptly, and even his body was locked. This made Hao Dachuan shocked. He didn't dare to be careless. Hao Dachuan channeled all the strength in his body and slammed into the lock. A demigod martial artist was indeed a demigod martial artist. With Hao Dachuan's strength, he couldn't even lock on for 2 seconds. With a swoosh, Hao Dachuan had disappeared without a trace. He ran really fast. 1 dead and 1 escaped. In this battle, Longao could be said to have won a complete victory. A gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist not only killed a titled Great Emperor martial artist, but also scared away a demigod martial artist. Such a thing seemed to have never happened since ancient times. The Massacre Abyss was ruled by 5 Abyss Lords. There were 4 Heavenly Kings under the East Abyss Lord. They were the Eastern Heavenly King, Western Heavenly King, Southern Heavenly King, and Northern Heavenly King. Among the 4 Heavenly Kings, the Western Heavenly King might not be the strongest, but he was the most insidious one. Everyone in the Massacre Abyss knew that the female Yaksha had once slept with the Western Sky King. It could be considered a one-night stand. Because of this, although the female Yaksha's strength was not very strong, she was able to do well in the city. How Darchwan also helped the female Yaksha in order to flatter the Western Heavenly King. East of the Massacre Abyss City, Western Heavenly King's residence. What did you say? Hearing How Darchwan's words, the Western Heavenly King's face instantly turned gloomy because everyone in the Massacre Abyss knew that he had slept with the female Yaksha for a night. Heavenly King, I've investigated clearly. Black Wolf just entered the Massacre Abyss. Although he's not strong, he's still capable. Even I can't kill him. A gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist killed the female Yaksha and forced How Darchwan to retreat. Hearing this, the Western Heavenly King was a little surprised. According to what you said, this child should be a disciple of a Long family. Long family, one of the 10 pillars of the Sky Martial continent. Long family's fame was too great. Even in the Slaughter Abyss, everyone knew about them. That was especially true of the Long family's innate divine abilities. They were very famous in the Martial Heaven continent. How Darchwan nodded. He had already guessed this. If they were outside, they might be afraid of Long family. But in the Slaughter Abyss, Heavenly King, when Black Wolf fought with me, he could disappear in an instant. If I'm not mistaken, I'm guessing that he must have a spatial divine item on him. There was a loud thump. Hearing How Darchwan's words, the West Heaven King stood up directly because he knew very well what a spatial artifact meant. Among the various types of divine artifacts, spatial divine artifacts were the most powerful. Once one had a spatial divine artifact, not to mention fighting someone of the same level, even challenging someone of a higher level wasn't impossible. Black Wolf could use a spatial divine artifact to kill an enemy of a higher level. This in itself showed how powerful the spatial divine artifact in Black Wolf's hand was. It would be a lie to say that he didn't want to get it. Even the West Heaven King was no exception. If it was just a hag, it was still unknown whether the West Heaven King would take action. Because the West Heaven King's identity was there. If he condescended to deal with a person who had just stepped into the Slaughter Abyss, others would definitely say that he was bullying the weak. However, Black Wolf had a spatial divine artifact and other secrets. The West Heaven King was ready to take action to see what the other party's background was. Darchwan, where is he? Hearing the West Heaven King's words, How Darchwan was overjoyed. He was not a fool. He knew what the West Heaven King meant. After all, the West Heaven King didn't take action for the hag, but for temptation and greed. Heavenly King, I have sent someone to lock onto Black Wolf's position. He can't fly. He nodded. The West Heaven King thought for a moment and said, My lord has something to do with me. I have no time to spare. How about this? I will send 2 Supreme Dao warriors to go with you to catch this person. Darchwan will live up to your expectations. How Darchwan was full of confidence. Even if Black Wolf killed the hag and repelled him with the help of a spatial divine artifact, a great emperor was still a great emperor. It was impossible for him to compete with a Supreme Dao warrior. With a wave of his hand, the West Heaven King's figure disappeared. How Darchwan left the Heavenly King's residence with 2 Supreme Dao warriors, Fang Hui and Lu Chen. Both of them were Void God Realm warriors. It was more than enough to deal with a little Great Emperor Realm warrior. Fang Hui and Lu Chen's faces were filled with displeasure. As martial artists of the Supreme Dao, both their status and strength were clearly displayed. But at this moment, the Heavenly King asked the 2 of them to deal with a little Great Emperor Realm warrior. Moreover, the 2 of them had to join forces. Not to mention that it was a waste of talent. If this matter was spread out, where would their face go? Where would the Heavenly King's face go? Even if they were unhappy and unwilling, The Heavenly King had already given the order. The two of them were very clear that they had to go whether they wanted to or not. My lords, you must be careful. Although Black Wolf's strength is not very good, he has a very powerful divine ability. He even has a spatial divine artifact. Even I am no match for him. Humph, defeating you is easy. Don't talk nonsense with us. Fang Hui did not say anything nice. In the eyes of the two of them, they did not put Black Wolf in their eyes at all. They also did not put Hao Dachuan in their eyes. The two of them looked high and mighty, which made Hao Dachuan's balls ache. Similarly, even if Hao Dachuan was angry and unhappy, he did not dare to say anything. Whether it was status or strength, he was not on par with the two of them. In other words, if the two of them wanted to kill him, it would be a matter of minutes. In this way, Hao Dachuan left the Heavenly King's mansion with the two supreme Dao warriors and walked towards the center of the city. After killing the female Yaksha, Longao's reputation suddenly increased. Everyone who received the news was shocked. They did not know whether Black Wolf's brain was damaged or not. The female Yaksha was not very good. If the Western Heavenly King wanted to find trouble, then it would be really troublesome. If it was an ordinary person, it would be a different matter whether he cared about a woman who had a one-night stand or not. However, the other party was the Western Heavenly King. As the saying goes, before you beat a dog, you have to look at its master. If the Western Heavenly King was not willing, then wouldn't Black Wolf be dead for sure? Many people wanted to meet this Hei Lang. The slaughtering abyss was a mystical place. With regards to Longao's arrogance and recklessness, not only did no one despise him, many people were instead praising him. Chapter 1124. Killing the Female Demon. Scaring Hao Dachuan away. Longao didn't just sit there and wait for his death. He wanted to know about the relationship between the female demon and the Western Sky King. If he didn't ask, he wouldn't know. Longao thought that the female demon and the Western Sky King were old friends. He didn't expect that the female demon and the Western Sky King were just having a one-night stand. Their relationship was the so-called adulterous couple. It was still unknown whether the Western Sky King would take action. Longao knew clearly that for someone of the Western Sky King's status, he had too many one-night stands. If he was biased towards everyone, the Western Sky King would die from exhaustion. If it was an ordinary person who got what they wanted, they would definitely choose to leave the massacre abyss. But what about Longao? Longao entered the massacre abyss mainly to increase his strength and strengthen himself. That was why Longao didn't expect things to go so smoothly. His cultivation base broke through smoothly from the purple grade Great Emperor realm to the peak of the gold grade Great Emperor realm. It was a qualitative leap. Even so, Longao didn't leave the massacre abyss immediately. The reason was simple. Longao was prepared to stay in the massacre abyss and continue to train. He hoped to break through with the help of the massacre abyss. It would be best if he could break through to the titled Great Emperor realm from the gold grade Great Emperor realm. It would be even better if he could break through to the demigod realm. There were dangerous people everywhere in the massacre abyss. Just because you don't provoke others, doesn't mean no one will provoke you. As soon as he stepped into the tea shop, someone came looking for trouble. Since entering the massacre abyss, Longao didn't have the slightest bit of courtesy. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll kill them, no matter who they are. Longao was clear about the situation in the massacre abyss. Don't be too careful here. Once you do, the consequences would be unimaginable. By then, everyone would want to kill you. Catcher. In the tea shop. Longao didn't have the slightest bit of courtesy. He killed the other party with a palm strike and sat down to drink his tea. Seeing this, the surrounding people fell silent. It seemed like the other party was a ruthless person. Kind people are bullied, kind horses are ridden. Sirs, Black Wolf is inside. Outside the tea shop. Hao Dachuan brought along two supreme Dao martial artists and already rushed over smoothly. He sneered endlessly in his heart. This was not for the sake of the female Yaksha, but for himself. As a demigod cultivator, he was considered a top character in the massacre abyss. Yet, He had been forced back by a mere great emperor cultivator. If news of this were to spread, where would his face go? Face was still a small issue. If this matter were to spread, there would probably be people coming to cause trouble. It was precisely because of this that Hao Dachuan was prepared to borrow the power of the Western Heaven King to kill Black Wolf. Fang Hui and Lu Chen nodded their heads. From the beginning to the end, the two of them had looked down on each other. Their faces were filled with contempt and disdain. After all, the difference between a gold-grade great emperor and a supreme Dao martial artist was like heaven and earth. It could be said that the difference between the two was too great. They were not on the same level at all. Fang Hui and Lu Chen looked at each other. Lu Chen asked, "Do you want to do it or should I?" Lu Chen's meaning was very simple. It would be too degrading if the two of them had to join forces to deal with a gold-grade great emperor cultivator. Even if they could capture this person, they would still look down on them. If news of two supreme Dao martial artists dealing with a gold-grade great emperor cultivator were to spread, it would be a great loss of face for them. "You do it." Lu Chen nodded his head and led Hao Dachuan into the tea shop. Looking around, he immediately saw Black Wolf sitting by the window. "Black Wolf, long time no see. How have you been?" Seeing Hao Dachuan enter the tea shop and bring a divine Dao martial artist over, Longao was somewhat surprised in his heart. Without guessing at all, he practically already knew what the origin of this divine Dao martial artist that Hao Dachuan brought along was. Just a defeated opponent. The Western Heaven King. Longao never thought that the Western Heaven King would really intervene in this matter. It seemed like the relationship between the Western Heaven King and the female Yakshaw was not simple. Otherwise, the Western Heaven King would not be so bored as to send a supreme Dao martial artist to deal with him. A supreme Dao martial artist. Longao was more or less afraid. With his current strength, it was already difficult for him to defeat a demigod martial artist, let alone a supreme Dao martial artist. It was almost impossible. Defeated opponent. With just you. With a backer, Hao Dachuan was of course not afraid of the opponent. He did not continue to talk nonsense and left the battlefield to Lu Chen. No matter what, he still needed to rely on Lu Chen to defeat the opponent. "You are Black Wolf?" Asking when you already know the answer. Nonsense. Hearing Black Wolf's words, Hao Dachuan was shocked. He never thought that Black Wolf would dare to act like this in the face of a supreme Dao martial artist. He was simply courting death. There were only two reasons why Black Wolf dared to act like this. Firstly, Black Wolf had nothing to fear and was not afraid of Lu Chen. Secondly, Black Wolf pretended not to be afraid, but he was actually very worried. The first reason was almost impossible. Ha ha ha. Hearing Black Wolf's words, Lu Chen laughed maniacally as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. His face was filled with disdain and contempt. In the entire tea shop, there were only 3 people left. The rest had disappeared without a trace. Even in the massacre abyss, a supreme Dao martial artist was an expert among experts. Moreover, Lu Chen was in the massacre abyss. Everyone knew that Lu Chen was a subordinate of the Western Sky King. No one was willing to provoke one of the 4 Sky Kings. "Black Wolf, follow me obediently. Otherwise, I will kill you without mercy." Lu Chen didn't put Longao in his eyes at all. Even if the other party's ability was strong and he had a spatial artifact, an Emperor Realm expert was still an Emperor Realm expert. Even if he could defeat a half-god realm expert, wanting to defeat Lu Chen was like trying to smash an egg against a rock. Would Longao agree? Lu Chen snorted coldly. "With just you." Longao's figure suddenly disappeared after his voice sounded. Upon seeing this situation, forget about Hao Dachuan, even Lu Chen's expression changed. This was because even Lu Chen was unable to understand just how the other party had done it. "Sir, be careful." With Hao Dachuan beside him, even if Lu Chen was afraid, he could only act like he did not care. The aura of his spirit spread out in all directions, trying to lock onto the opponent's figure. The next moment, the dragon's breath appeared. Before the two of them could react, the dragon's breath had already enveloped them. Divine dragon's breath. Sensing this powerful dragon's breath, Both Hao Dachuan and Lu Chen's expressions changed abruptly. Their faces were filled with disbelief because they could clearly sense how powerful this dragon's breath was. Hao Dachuan and Lu Chen did not dare to stay any longer. They immediately turned around and left. However, it was too late. Since Longao had already released the divine dragon's corpse demon, he had decided to make them stay here forever. Chapter 1125. Divine Dragon Corpse Slave. When Longao left the Dragon Peak this time, he brought out a total of stone divine dragon corpse slaves in case of emergency. If it was outside, Longao would not casually use the divine dragon corpse slaves. After all, if the Long family knew about this, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, in the massacre abyss, Longao's fear was obviously less. Moreover, the person that Hao Dachuan brought this time was a genuine supreme Dao martial artist. With his own strength, it would be a fool's dream to think that he could contend against a supreme Dao martial artist. As such, Longao was prepared to use the divine dragon corpse slaves to kill the supreme Dao martial artist and Hao Dachuan. 2 divine dragon corpse slaves appeared. Without giving the 2 any chance, they devoured them directly. 1 against 2, Lu Chen was no match for the 2 divine dragon corpse slaves. Outside the tea shop, the 2 had entered for 2 hours, but there was still no news. Fang Hui had no idea what was going on. Under normal circumstances, with Lu Chen's strength, it would be a matter of minutes to deal with a mere gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. It shouldn't be. A bad premonition arose spontaneously. Before Fang Hui could enter the tea shop, the 2 corpses had already flown out of the tea shop. Fang Hui was shocked. Before Fang Hui could react, he attacked and hit the 2 corpses away. His face instantly turned gloomy, and his heart was like a huge wave. Black Wolf, come out if you have the ability. Fang Hui was already prepared to leave at any time. After all, the other party was able to kill Lu Chen and Hao Dachuan, which proved his strength. Fang Hui was clear about Lu Chen's strength, which was about the same as his. Since Black Wolf could kill Lu Chen, he could also kill him. Was it worth it if he were to die for a hag? Longao slowly walked out of the tea shop and looked coldly at the supreme Dao martial artist in front of him. Without guessing, he already knew who the other party was. Who are you? Black Wolf, you dare to kill the people of the Heavenly King residence. You are really reckless. Fang Hui waved his hand. Without giving the other party any chance to finish, Longao had already guessed what the other party was going to say. Longao coldly smiled and said, if you want to fight, then fight. If not, then scram. Without waiting for Fang Hui to speak, Longao continued, I believe that you don't wish for the 2 of them to die here either. Fang Hui's expression became increasingly gloomy because he did not have the slightest bit of confidence that he could defeat his opponent. Hey Lang, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. We will meet again. You want to leave just like that? Hearing Black Wolf's words, Fang Hui's anger erupted like a volcano. If it weren't for the previous example, he would have attacked long ago. Under normal circumstances, for a great emperor martial artist to want to kill a divine Dao martial artist, it was practically something like a dream. Fang Hui was almost certain that the other party was a gold-grade great emperor martial artist. It seemed like Black Wolf must have used some other means to kill Lu Chen and the other man. Even so, Fang Hui was still not completely confident. Black Wolf, what do you want? Don't worry, I won't kill you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing here now. Fang Hui did not speak because he did not know what the other party wanted to do. He could only take 1 step at a time. If there was really no other way, it seemed like he could only attack. In fact, Fang Hui did not know that Longao had no intention of attacking from the beginning to the end. This was because the situation inside and outside the tea shop was completely different. If he used the divine dragon corpse slave here, it would be very troublesome. Go back and tell the Western Sky King that the grudge between me and that hag has nothing to do with him. If he wants to find trouble, I'll be there anytime. Scram. Scram. If it was an ordinary person, would they dare to speak to a divine Dao martial artist like that? If there weren't any previous examples, Fang Hui would have attacked long ago. After giving a cold stare, Fang Hui turned and left. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. The news of Black Wolf killing Lu Chen had spread throughout the city in a short while. With Lu Chen's identity and strength, could a mere gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist do it? No one would believe it, but the facts were right in front of them. Lu Chen's identity was not simple. He was one of the 4 heavenly kings, the subordinate of the Western Sky King. Black Wolf killed Lu Chen so openly. Wasn't he not giving face to the Western Sky King? Black Wolf was doomed. No matter how powerful Black Wolf was, it was impossible for him to compete with the Western Sky King. As everyone knew, the 4 heavenly kings under the Eastern Abyss Master were all supreme divine Dao martial artists. Ordinary people would not dare to provoke them in the city. As for Black Wolf's identity, it had been found out. He was just a person who had just stepped into the massacre abyss. Was he out of his mind, or was he reckless to provoke the Western Sky King? The recent topics in the massacre abyss were all about Black Wolf and the Western Sky King. Everyone was looking forward to seeing how the Western Sky King was going to deal with Black Wolf. "How's the thing I asked you to do?" Longao found the fat man and the thin man and asked straightforwardly. The fat man nodded and said with a smile, "During this time, the 2 of us didn't stop at all and finally bought a detached courtyard. The place is not very big. Big brother, you know it." Longao waved his hand and stopped the 2 of them. Longao was very clear about the situation in the massacre abyss. It was almost impossible to buy a huge house in the city. At the very least, it was not something that the 2 of them could do. It was already a good thing that the fat man and the thin man could buy a detached courtyard. Next, Longao followed the 2 to the so-called detached courtyard. After all, the location was remote. It was not a good place at first glance, but there were a lot of people around. "Big brother, according to the city rules, as long as we register to buy a detached courtyard, no one can take it away. However, if someone wants to come and make trouble, the 5 Abyss Masters will not ask much." After entering the courtyard, Longao looked around and discovered that this courtyard was indeed very lousy. However, to be able to obtain a courtyard in such a short period of time was already not a simple matter. "Big brother, there's something, I don't know if we should ask." "Say it." "Big brother, we heard that you killed Lu Chen and Hao Dachuan. Is this true?" So it was about this. Since things had come to this point, Longao did not hide anything. He nodded and said, "That's right." Although the 2 of them were very surprised by their big brother's strength, they were more or less very worried. No matter what, the backer behind Lu Chen was the Western Sky King. They knew what the consequences would be if they provoked the Western Sky King. Without asking or guessing, Longao already knew what the 2 were thinking. He said, "Do you know the Western Sky King?" "Big brother, we know a little about him. Do you want to know?" Chapter 11:26. Tell me about it. What does Big Brother want? The fat man and the thin man had a feeling that the big brother in front of them seemed to be provoking the Western Sky King. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Big brother is a bit too strong. The 2 were more or less looking forward to it. If Big Brother was really stronger than the Western Sky King, then he would have a place in the city. This was not necessarily a bad thing for them. Big brother, the 4 heavenly kings are all subordinates of the Eastern Abyss Lord. According to the rumors, the 4 heavenly kings are all supreme divine path martial artists. Supreme divine path? Longao's heart sank. He had always guessed that the 4 heavenly kings should be supreme divine path martial artists, which was to say, divine realm martial artists. But he never thought that the 4 heavenly kings were supreme divine path martial artists. Supreme divine path and supreme divine path were 2 different concepts. Big brother, you killed Lu Chen. If there is no accident, the Western Sky King will definitely not let this go. How could Longao not know what the fat man said? Not to mention whether the Western Sky King valued Lu Chen or not, just the matter of face, he believed that the Western Sky King would not let this go. In the Western Sky King's residence. In the main hall. After listening to Fang Hui's report, the Western Sky King's face was gloomy to the extreme. It was as ugly as it could be. Black Wolf was completely provoking him. If he didn't do anything, once this matter spread out, where would his face go? Heavenly King, what should we do now? Have you found out Black Wolf's identity? How could Fang Hui not know what the Western Sky King meant? Heavenly King, I can assert that Black Wolf's identity is very simple. He is just a disciple of a Long family. Maybe he has a powerful spatial artifact, but his strength is only a gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. However, Black Wolf is not afraid of my Heavenly King residence. It seems that he has something to rely on. Say it. Fang Hui thought for a moment, and finally said, Heavenly King, there are 5 Abyss Lords in the Massacre Abyss. I guess Black Wolf is under the command of another Abyss Lord. Otherwise, Black Wolf alone doesn't seem to dare to do this. The West Heavenly King did not speak because he had almost understood what Fang Hui meant. These words were not without reason. It was impossible for Hei Lang to be so arrogant as to casually provoke him, unless Hei Lang had a backer. Just as Fang Hui had said, there were 5 Abyss Lords in the Massacre Abyss. Heavenly King, are we going to deal with Black Wolf now? Kill. The West Heavenly King said coldly, I don't care who the other party is. If he dares to challenge my Heavenly King mansion, I will kill him without mercy. Heavenly King, I'll make the arrangements now. He waved his hand. The West Heaven King sneered and said, I'll meet this person in person. Fang Hui was shocked when he heard the Heavenly King's words. He never thought that the Western Heavenly King would personally take action for a Black Wolf. It was obvious that the Western Heavenly King valued this person very much. Since the West Heaven King had already made up his mind, Fang Hui did not dare to say anything more. In the courtyard, Fatty and Skinny were no longer around. Longao sat alone in the courtyard, thinking about various things in his mind. Big Brother Long, with your current strength, you are simply not a match for a supreme divine Dao martial artist. He nodded. Looking at Bai Ling, who suddenly appeared in front of him, how could Longao not know that a supreme divine Dao martial artist was a super-existence above the divine Dao? With his current strength, it was almost impossible to fight a supreme divine Dao martial artist. Longao could almost assert that as the grudge between him and the Heavenly King Mansion continued to escalate, he believed that it was not impossible for the Western Heavenly King to personally take action. Above the Divine Dao was the Supreme Divine Dao, the Nirvana Realm, and finally the Peak Dao Comprehension. Longao still didn't know how the Supreme Divine Dao was divided into realms. Bai Ling, I want to ask, how is the Supreme Divine Dao above the 5 realms of the Divine Dao divided into strength? Big Brother Long, you don't know? He nodded. If he knew, he wouldn't ask. Big Brother Long, above the 5 realms of the Divine Dao are the 4 Supreme Realms. Sure enough. Longao had already guessed that the Supreme Divine Dao was just a general name, just like the Divine Dao Realm. The 5 realms of the Divine Dao were divided into the Void God Realm, the Spirit Condensation Realm, the Human God Realm, the Earth God Realm, and the Celestial God Realm. Bai Ling, what are the 4 Supreme Realms? Big Brother Long, the 4 Supreme Realms are the Divine King Realm, the Divine Emperor Realm, the Hierarch Realm, and the Divine Emperor Realm. The 4 Supreme Realms were the Divine King Realm, the Divine Emperor Realm, the Hierarch Realm, and the Divine Emperor Realm. After listening to Bai Ling's words, Longao was very surprised, because he didn't expect that above the 4 Supreme Realms of the Divine Dao, there were the Divine Emperor Realm, the Hierarch Realm, and the Divine Emperor Realm. Longao didn't know which realm the 4 Heavenly Kings were in. Big Brother Long, forgive me for being blunt, your current strength is really low. I have already sensed that there are many experts in this place. If you want to train here, you will encounter danger at all times. Longao didn't speak, because he had thought about the problem of strength countless times, but it was not an easy thing to improve his strength quickly. Longao was clear about this point, and Bai Ling was also clear about it. However, the path of cultivation itself was against the heavens. One needed to consolidate at every step, one step at a time. Otherwise, there would be no benefit in rushing for quick success. For warriors, the consequences were very serious. If he cultivated according to normal circumstances, not to mention the Nirvana realm, just the demigod realm. He didn't know how long it would take to break through. Longao was very clear that with his current strength, it was really not an easy thing to establish a foothold in the massacre abyss. If it was just fighting against divine Dao warriors, Longao had full confidence. No matter what, he still had 10 divine Dragon Corps slaves. As long as it wasn't a divine god who came personally, he would kill one if one came, and destroy 2 if one came. If a divine god or a supreme divine Dao warrior came, how would he deal with it? Big brother Long Bai Ling, go back. With a deep sigh, Bai Ling knew very well why Big brother Long wanted her to go back. With no other choice, Bai Ling turned into a white light and instantly returned to the god-killing sword. As soon as Bai Ling's figure disappeared, a figure appeared. It was none other than the West Sky King. Without guessing, Longao almost knew that the middle-aged man who just appeared in front of him was one of the 4 heavenly kings, the West Sky King. You are Black Wolf? Yes, you are the West Sky King? Ha ha ha, what an arrogant kid. Black Wolf, do you know where this is? Nonsense, asking the obvious. Longao looked coldly at the middle-aged man in front of him and said with a smile, West Sky King, let's be frank. Although you and I haven't met, there is already a grudge between us. Cut the crap, what do you want to say this time? You don't have to take off your pants and fart. P.S. Today's 3 chapters, tomorrow's Monday. Everyone, get your tickets ready to see Xiao Ju's explosive power. Chapter 11:27. Boy, you should know who I am, yet you still dare to talk to me like this. I have to admire your courage. He waved his hand. Longao really didn't want to continue listening. He could almost guess what the West Heavenly King would say next. West Heavenly King, I killed the hag and Lu Chen. You just want to avenge them. Why talk so much nonsense? Some surprise, some admiration. The West Heavenly King shook his head and said, Black Wolf, I can spare your life, and you can still be popular here in the future. Longao didn't speak, because he wanted to hear what the West Heavenly King was up to. Things were definitely not that simple. Black Wolf, hand over the spatial artifact in your hand. So that was it. Longao had already guessed that the West Heavenly King wouldn't be so easy to talk to. It turned out that he wanted the dragon seal space in his hand. Was that possible? He looked at him coldly, his face full of disdain and contempt. West Heavenly King, do you believe that you will end up like Lu Chen and the hag? Black Wolf's words directly stunned the West Heavenly King. Black Wolf's fearlessness made the West Heavenly King a little uncertain. Did he really have something to rely on? A gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. Fang Hui's perception was right. Black Wolf in front of him was indeed just a gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. With his strength, it was almost a matter of minutes to kill the other party. Are you afraid? The dignified West Heavenly King was intimidated by a little Great Emperor martial artist. If this matter was spread out, no one would choose to believe it. Trash. Black Wolf, you're courting death. The West Heavenly King didn't continue to sit still. Things had already reached this point. If he still didn't say anything, wouldn't he be looked down upon by the other party? The West Heavenly King didn't believe that the other party was really so powerful. After all, killing a Supreme Dao martial artist and killing a Supreme Dao martial artist were 2 different concepts. There was no way out. This time, the West Heavenly King came to deal with Longao. He couldn't go back empty-handed. He took 3 steps back. Just when the West Sky King was wondering what the other party wanted to do, an old man suddenly appeared in front of Black Wolf. There was no expression on the old man's face, and he didn't seem to be using any power. He was just like an ordinary person. Was this what Black Wolf was relying on? The West Heaven King's face turned cold, and he slammed his palm toward the old man. No matter what, the old man was standing in front of Black Wolf. If they wanted to kill Black Wolf, they would have to step over the old man first. The Western Sky King was very confident in his own strength. Unless the 5 Abyss Lords came in person, no one was his match. The West Heaven King's strength and identity were all there. The old man didn't dodge. He just stood there quietly. It was soft. The Western Sky King's face suddenly changed as he slammed his palm on the old man's body. He thought that this palm was enough to take the old man's life, but what was the result? The old man was as steady as Mount Tai. It was as if his palm had struck cotton. There was not the slightest fluctuation of power. The Western Sky King withdrew his palm and retreated. His face was full of disbelief. He didn't know who the old man in front of him was. He believed that only the Lord of the Abyss could contend with such strength. In other words, the old man in front of him was a Nirvana warrior. Impossible. Completely impossible. As everyone knew, there were only 5 Abyss Lords in the Massacre Abyss. They were their lords. Apart from them, there hadn't been a new Nirvana warrior in the Massacre Abyss for a long time. Otherwise, the situation of the Massacre Abyss would have changed long ago. Who are you? The old man didn't speak. May I ask who you are? My lord is the Lord of the Eastern Abyss. The old man still didn't speak. In the eyes of the West Heaven King, the old man's arrogance had shown that he didn't take him seriously at all. He had the right to be arrogant. With the old man's strength, changing the situation of the Massacre Abyss was not a problem. Clasping his fist, the West Heaven King said, "The green mountains will not change and the green water will flow forever. We will meet again someday." After that, the West Heaven King turned and left. After a while, he had disappeared without a trace. Looking at the disappearing figure, Longao breathed a long sigh of relief. As expected of one of the 4 heavenly kings, the West Heaven King was very powerful. With his strength, he didn't even have a chance to fight back. Even if he used 10 divine dragon corpse slaves, it was impossible to be the West Heaven King's opponent. It was difficult to make up for the gap in realm with other things. The old man Longao summoned this time was the 5-element slave given to him by the 5 Elements Patriarch. It was a piece of cake for him to be able to contend against a Nirvana realm martial artist and a Supreme Divine Path martial artist. That was why Longao directly used the 5-element slave. According to the 5 Elements Patriarch, the defense of the 5 Elements clan was unparalleled in the world. Even if a Nirvana realm martial artist took action, it was impossible to repel the 5-element slave. Unless it was a super expert like the 5 Elements Patriarch, it would be the way of the heavens and the marvelous mathematician. As expected, the 5 Elements clan really resisted the West Heaven King. In this way, Longao could be sure that the West Heaven King would not come again without full confidence, unless he invited the Lord of the Abyss. Even if the Lord of the Abyss came, what could he do? He couldn't resist, but the 5-element slave could. In this way, not to mention the West Heaven King, even if the Lord of the Abyss came in person, he still wouldn't be afraid. With the help of the 5-element slave, he could do whatever he wanted in the Massacre Abyss. Looking at the 5-element slave in front of him, Longao was a little helpless. If the 5-element slave could fight back, then not to mention the Massacre Abyss, he could even do whatever he wanted in the entire Tianwu continent. After repelling the West Heaven King this time, Longao could almost be sure that the West Heaven King would definitely not let it go. The biggest possibility was that the West Heaven King would ask for help from the backer behind him, which was the so-called Lord of the Abyss. Longao had already thought about it. If he left the Massacre Abyss now and returned to the Tianwu continent, it wouldn't be of much use. It was better to stay in the Massacre Abyss. If he could dominate the Massacre Abyss, then wouldn't he have the qualifications to enter the Tianwu continent? Longao was very clear in his heart that with the strength of a dragon sect, even with 500 divine dragon corpse slaves, it would be very difficult for them to rise in the Sky Martial continent. If they had the help of the Massacre Abyss, then everything would be different. The Massacre Abyss had a total of 5 Lords of the Abyss. If he wanted to dominate the Massacre Abyss, the first thing he had to do was to deal with the 5 Lords of the Abyss. It was easy to think about, but it was extremely difficult to do it. In any case, the 5-element slave could only fight against a Nirvana realm martial artist. It was almost impossible to kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. According to the 5 Elements ancestor, the 5-element slave only knew how to defend and didn't know how to attack. In any case, the best way to dominate the Massacre Abyss was to first establish his own force. In this way, he could lay the foundation for the future. Chapter 1128. In the Slaughter Abyss. In the city. The news that Black Wolf defeated the West Heaven King had spread throughout the Slaughter Abyss in the blink of an eye. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright. Who was the West Heaven King? As everyone knew, the West Heaven King was one of the 4 heavenly kings under the Lord of the Eastern Abyss. The West Heaven King's identity and strength were obvious. A person who had just stepped into the Slaughter Abyss, unless he was out of his mind, would not seek his own death. Who on earth was Black Wolf? Everyone in the city was speculating, wanting to know who was behind Longao. Otherwise, would Black Wolf dare to do this? Provoking the West Heaven King was equivalent to provoking the Lord of the Abyss. It was impossible for Black Wolf not to know this. The Slaughter Abyss was shocked. In less than 2 days, Black Wolf's reputation had spread throughout the Slaughter Abyss. The Slaughter Abyss was a very realistic world. Here, everyone respected the strong. Black Wolf could kill Lu Chen and scare away the West Heaven King, which was recognized by everyone. Not only was no one despised, but everyone respected him. For such a world, Longao still liked it very much in his heart. The people in the Slaughter Abyss were at least realistic, unlike the people outside who were hypocritical. In the Abyss Mansion. In the main hall. There were 5 Lords of the Abyss. This mansion was the headquarters of Hong Lingtong, the Lord of the Eastern Abyss. As the Lord of the Abyss, both his identity and strength were there. Hong Lingtong looked very arrogant, fat, and 2 meters tall. My lord, what I just said is true. That old man is very powerful. If I'm not mistaken, the old man's strength should be in the Nirvana realm. He was not moved at all. Hong Lingtong sat lazily in his seat, sweating all over. No one knew why. I already know about Black Wolf. Before the West Heaven King could speak, Hong Lingtong continued, he can't do anything right. He was startled. The West Heaven King was so scared that he didn't dare to say a word. He stood there trembling. The Western Sky King knew very well what the Lord of the Abyss meant. If the Lord of the Abyss was unhappy, he could kill him at any time. After all, it was only a matter of minutes for the Lord of the Abyss to create a heavenly king. According to what you said, the other party should be a Nirvana stage martial artist. How many years has it been since a new Nirvana stage martial artist appeared in the Massacre Abyss? Hong Lingtong looked fine on the surface, but he was already extremely fearful in his heart. According to what the West Heaven King had just said, the other party's strength was unfathomable. Even he was not 100% sure that he was a match for the other party. Sir, what should we do now? Let's wait and see. Inform our men not to provoke Black Wolf. I want to see what the other 4 will do. The West Sky King was not a fool. He instantly understood what the Lord of the Deep Caves meant. Getting someone else to do the dirty work. At the end of the day, Hong Lingtong was not confident enough to deal with Black Wolf, so he wanted to borrow the power of the other 4 Lords of the Deep Caves to kill him. Yes, sir. He waved his hand. Seeing that Hong Lingtong was unhappy, the West Sky King did not dare to continue talking nonsense. He turned around and slowly retreated. Hong Lingtong was the only one left in the entire hall. After the West Sky King left, Hong Lingtong's face instantly turned gloomy because he knew very well what it meant to have a Nirvana stage martial artist suddenly appear in the Massacre Abyss. Once another Nirvana stage martial artist appeared, the pattern of the Massacre Abyss would be completely broken, and his territory would be divided. It seems that I have to look for the 4 of them. 2 hours later. In the center of a small lake, inside a huge pavilion. The 5 Lords of the Massacre Abyss were Hong Lingtong, the Lord of the East Abyss, Yang Ling, the Lord of the South Abyss, Luo Qingfeng, the Lord of the West Abyss, the Lord of the North Abyss, and the Lord of the Middle Abyss, Yi Chen. The 5 of them were the most powerful people in the Massacre Abyss. Usually, the 5 of them would hardly gather together. The 5 of them usually fought openly and secretly. Everyone wanted to kill the other 4 so that they could completely dominate the Massacre Abyss. Hong Lingtong, we've heard the news about Black Wolf. According to what you said just now, it seems that the old man next to Black Wolf should be a Nirvana stage martial artist. I really didn't expect that after so many years, the Massacre Abyss would attract another Nirvana stage martial artist. The five of them looked a little solemn. Because at this moment, none of them knew the strength of the Nirvana stage martial artist next to Black Wolf. Tell me, what should we do now? Everyone should know that the pattern of the massacre abyss hasn't changed for many years. This time, a new Nirvana stage martial artist has appeared. If this person has the strength of a Nirvana stage martial artist, Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle Abyss, paused and continued, if the pattern changes, all 5 of our territories will be divided again. Why don't the 5 of us work together to kill this person? Each of them had their own ulterior motives. The 5 of them wanted to kill each other, so of course, they were not willing to work together. If it were not for the appearance of a new Nirvana stage martial artist, the 5 of them would not sit together at all. The strength of the 5 of them was about the same. Otherwise, the massacre abyss would have been unified long ago. Seeing that the 4 of them did not speak, Yi Chen's expression did not look too good. This was because almost no one responded to his suggestion. However, what did it mean? Forgive me for saying this. Hong Lingtong said at this time, Black Wolf dares to stir up trouble in the city and look down on the 5 of us. It seems that he has a strong backing. If the old man next to this person is stronger than you and me, how should we deal with him? The 4 of them nodded. Hong Lingtong's meaning was clear. Hong Lingtong was afraid because what he said was true. Black Wolf had a strong backing and openly provoked the 5 lords of the abyss. This in itself was a problem. It would be a lie to say that they were not afraid. Hong Lingtong, are we going to give up just like that? Choosing to give up was equivalent to agreeing to change the pattern of the massacre abyss and giving up territory for no reason. Who among the 5 of them would be willing to do that? For a moment, the pavilion was silent. None of the 5 lords of the abyss said anything. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. They could neither advance nor retreat. It could be said that they were in a dilemma. Tell me, what should we do? If we give up so easily, whether you're willing or not, I'm not willing. How about this, let's test the other party's strength first. If he's really strong, we'll take a step back. What do you think? Of course, the other 4 understood what Hong Lingtong meant. Since things had come to this point, the 4 of them could only nod in agreement. In this way, the 5 lords of the abyss got up and left, ready to test the strength of the old man next to Black Wolf to see if he was really that strong. Chapter 1129. The Massacre Abyss. Less than 3 days after Black Wolf scared off the Western Sky King, a new force quietly rose. Dragon Sect. Someone dared to casually establish a force in the Massacre Abyss. It was simply courting death. The more Longao acted like this, the more everyone talked about it. They all thought that Black Wolf was fearless and must have a powerful backer behind him. The news spread. Black Wolf was just a gold great emperor martial artist. No matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for Black Wolf to scare off the Western Sky King, let alone establish a new force casually. Black Wolf's meaning was already very clear. Those with discerning eyes had already guessed what Black Wolf meant. He wanted nothing more than to establish his own order in the Massacre Abyss and even become the 6th Abyss Master. If it were someone else, everyone would definitely despise, ridicule, and even curse them. But what about Black Wolf? Not only did Black Wolf behead Lu Chen, but he even scared off the Western Sky King. This had already shown his attitude, which was to provoke the Abyss Masters. The development of Dragon Sect was very fast. Black Wolf's fame had spread. Many people who were not from the 5 Abyss Masters had come. In just 3 days, there were already hundreds of people in Dragon Sect. At this rate of development, it wouldn't take long for Dragon Sect to become a major force. Fatty and Skinny became the 2 protectors of Dragon Sect, specializing in the development of Dragon Sect. In the city, there were no sects or clans. In the entire city, there were only 5 Abyss Masters, the so-called 5 major forces. The Dragon Sect established by Black Wolf was not recognized by the 5 Abyss Masters and was established casually. One could imagine what the result would be. In fact, everyone was watching, wanting to see the development of Dragon Sect later. The Western Sky King's defeat did not mean that the 5 Abyss Masters were also defeated. If Dragon Sect could contend with the 5 Abyss Masters, then the development speed of Dragon Sect would increase by hundreds of times. The base camp of Dragon Sect was in the courtyard. However, the current solitary courtyard was no longer the same as it was in the past. It was dozens of times larger because Longao had purchased the entire surrounding area of the solitary courtyard. If it was the previous Longao, it wouldn't have been easy to purchase it. However, the Longao had killed Lu Chen and scared off the Western Sky King. Many people would give Longao face. In the Slaughter Abyss, the strong were respected. Everyone respected the strong. Master, what should we do now? At this moment, the fat man and the skinny man were extremely excited. Until now, the two of them had never thought that things would develop to this point. Without Big Brother's help, the two of them might not even be able to enter the city, let alone have their current status. Let's wait and see. You guys can leave. Seeing that the master had something on his mind, Fatty and Skinny didn't dare to stay any longer. They turned and left. Big Brother Long, the 5 Lords of the Abyss won't let this matter rest. How could Longao not know what Bai Ling meant? I want to wait for the 5 Lords of the Abyss to come. That way, I'll have a firm foothold in the Slaughter Abyss. Bai Ling was very curious, not knowing what he meant. After all, Bai Ling knew very well that with Big Brother Long's strength, it was impossible for him to be a match for the 5 Lords of the Abyss. He couldn't even defeat a divine martial artist, let alone a nirvana martial artist. The difference between a great emperor martial artist was too great. Bai Ling, although I can't defeat the 5 Lords of the Abyss with my strength, I have the 5 elemental slaves. Even if all 5 Lords of the Abyss are here, I'm not afraid. As long as I don't make a move, I believe the 5 Lords of the Abyss will be intimidated. Longao's meaning was very simple. He just wanted to intimidate the 5 Lords of the Abyss. There was no other way. The 5 elemental slaves could only defend and not attack. Big Brother Long, if the 5 Lords of the Abyss aren't intimidated, then you'll be in danger. Longao nodded. Longao was also very clear about this. The 5 elemental slaves could ignore the attacks of nirvana martial artists. If the 5 Lords of the Abyss learned of this, or if they tested it out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Everything had to be tried. Longao had already decided. In any case, success or failure depended on this. If he failed to intimidate the 5 Lords of the Abyss, he would immediately leave the Massacre Abyss and return to the Martial Heaven continent. Once they were intimidated, then his dragon sect would be able to stabilize in the Massacre Abyss and slowly develop. There would be a day when they could suppress the 5 Lords of the Abyss and dominate the Massacre Abyss. Bai Ling, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Saying that he wasn't worried was a lie. Bai Ling and Xiling's figures appeared at the same time. Stopping Bai Ling, Xiling said, Longao, I know what you mean. Just now, my sister said that this battle concerns your life and death. You have to think carefully. Towards Purple Spirit's concern, Longao was more or less not used to it. Not long ago, Xiling had been constantly chasing after him. I've already made my decision. Xiling and Bai Ling exchanged a glance. Since Longao had already made his decision, there was no need for them to say anything more. Longao, even if the 5 Lords of the Abyss are intimidated by you, what are you going to do next? Stabilize first, then develop the Dragon Sect. Are you going to stay here forever? Longao had already heard Xiling's meaning. He shrugged helplessly. I know what you mean. With my current strength, even if I return to the Martial Heaven continent, I won't be of much use. It's better to stay here. Other than developing the Dragon Sect, I can also temper myself and strive to break through to the demigod realm. With your talent and potential, it'll take you at least 2 years to break through to the divine realm. Longao was very clear that Xiling was telling the truth. Whether or not he could break through to the divine realm in 2 years was still unknown. After all, cultivation had to be done step by step. If he rushed for instant success, the consequences would be unimaginable. 2 years wasn't a long time, but it wasn't a short time either. His family in the 9 provinces continent had 500 divine dragon corpse slaves protecting them. He trusted that there wouldn't be any problems in the short term. As for the Dragon Sect's branch on the Martial Heaven continent, with his big brother and Dugu Bai's abilities, they would be able to develop it step by step. Even if I can't break through to the Divine Realm, I'll only leave the Slaughter Abyss after reaching the 9th Heaven stage. At that time, I'll bring the entire Slaughter Abyss with me. Xiling and Bai Ling didn't say anything. Their meaning was very simple. They didn't dare to believe it. After all, the power of the 5 Lords of the Abyss was there for all to see. Even if Longao broke through to the Divine Realm, so what? The gap between Divine Realm experts and Nirvana experts was too great. They weren't even on the same level, let alone 5 Nirvana experts. Chapter 1130. Longao, how's your Sword Dao cultivation going? My Sword Dao can almost kill martial artists of the same level in seconds. I believe I can even kill a titled Great Emperor martial artist directly. Sword Dao. Longao was looking forward to it. Longao, forgive me for being blunt, but your physique is very suitable for cultivating Sword Dao. Don't try to take over. Longao was certainly aware of Xiling's good intentions. They're finally here. At this moment, Longao's expression changed. He leaped out. Above the Massacre Abyss City. Looking at the 5 people in front of him, Longao already knew who they were. The 5 Abyss Lords of the Massacre Abyss were the so-called East Abyss Lord Hong Lingtong, the South Abyss Lord Yang Ling, the West Abyss Lord Luo Qingfeng, the North Abyss Lord, and the Middle Abyss Lord Yi Chen. Looks like you're the Black Wolf. After taking a look, Longao asked in return, so what if I am arrogant? He was so arrogant even in the face of 5 Abyss Lords. If word of this got out, who knew if anyone would choose to believe it? That was exactly the case. The 5 Abyss Lords were also a little surprised. For so many years, no one dared to do this. Facing the 5 of them at the same time, it was already good enough that he was not scared to the ground. The more Longao acted like this, the more uncertain the 5 Abyss Lords were. Was Black Wolf really that awesome? In the next second, an old man appeared beside Longao. It was none other than the 5 Elements slave. Seeing the old man, the 5 Abyss Lords were more or less wary because the West Sky King's palm strike was like hitting cotton. There was no doubt that this person's cultivation had reached the so-called Nirvana realm. As for his strength, they really did not know until they fought. The more mysterious the other party was, the more wary the 5 were. The more wary they were, the more they did not dare to make a move casually. Black Wolf, I'm very curious about your identity. Who are you? Hong Lingtong, Lord of the Eastern Abyss, the Lu Chen you killed was my subordinate. Longao nodded with an indifferent expression. From Longao's expression, it was as if he didn't care about the other party at all, causing the 5 of them to feel a headache. My identity is very simple, but there is no need to tell you. Without giving the 5 of them any chance, Longao continued, let's get straight to the point. This time, when I entered the Slaughter Abyss, I don't want to become enemies with the 5 of you. As long as you open up a path for me, from now on, we will mind our own business. How arrogant. The 5 snorted coldly at the same time. Black Wolf, you want to enter the Massacre Abyss? I want to ask you, with just you, what right do you have? Longao had already guessed their attitude, so he wasn't surprised at all. He calmly looked at the 5 people in front of him. On what basis? Longao sneered and said, the 5 of you, if that's the case, then I have nothing else to say. If you want to fight, then let's fight. If not, then all of you can get lost. It had to be said that Longao was indeed arrogant. No matter what, the 5 people in front of him were the 5 Lords of the Abyss, which was the so-called 5 Nirvana realm martial artists. The 5 of them had ugly expressions and were incomparably furious. If it weren't for their fear of the old man beside Black Wolf, they would have attacked long ago. How could they still be angry and not attack? The 5 of them looked at each other and didn't know what to do. Should they attack or not? I really wonder if the 5 of you are the Lords of the Abyss. In my opinion, the 5 of you are just 5 mice, and as timid as mice. I just said, if you want to fight, then let's fight. If not, then get lost. As he spoke, the 5 elements servants stood in front of Longao and were already in a stance. Which one of you will attack first? Who was willing? No one was willing. Black Wolf was so confident. Even if the 5 of them were gathered here, Black Wolf was not the slightest bit afraid. Instead, he was domineering. Under such circumstances, who would be willing to be the first to attack unless their brains were flooded with water? The East Lord of the Abyss, Hong Lingtong, the South Lord of the Abyss, Yang Ling, the West Lord of the Abyss, Luo Qingfeng, the North Lord of the Abyss, and the Middle Lord of the Abyss, Yi Chen. This matter was very laughable. After all, in the Massacre Abyss, the 5 Lords of the Abyss represented the 5 strongest powerhouses and were also the strongest force in the Massacre Abyss. It was such a powerful force that they were afraid of a great emperor martial artist. Even if the old man was also a Nirvana realm martial artist, he was still 1 against 5, but the 5 of them were so scared that they did not dare to attack. If this matter were to spread, would anyone believe it? The 5 Lords of the Abyss also knew very well that they had embarrassed themselves greatly this time. They were intimidated by a puny great emperor martial artist. Not to mention being despised by others, even they would despise themselves. Fight? Or not? For a moment, the 5 of them were in a bit of a dilemma. They did not know whether to attack or not. Looking at the confident Black Wolf, the 5 of them were more or less a little uncertain. However, things had already come to this point. If they didn't make a move, they would never know the other party's strength. In that case, the 5 of them would be passive. Once He Lang took the initiative, he would take the initiative to attack. At that time, it would not be as simple as giving up their territory. Because of this, the 5 of them had already decided that no matter what, they would still be prepared to test the other party's strength. If they could win, they would eliminate the source of trouble and directly obliterate the 2 of them. If they could not win, they would change the structure of the city and thus the structure of the entire Massacre Abyss. 5 Lords of the Abyss would become 6 Lords of the Abyss. No one was willing to see such an outcome. Attack at the same time. The 5 Lords of the Abyss communicated through their spiritual senses. In a one-on-one situation, they really did not have full confidence that they could defeat the other party. Although the 5 of them knew that they could not afford to lose face if they fought 5 against 1, they had no other choice in this situation. In an instant, the 5 of them had all rushed out. Before they arrived, the terrifying aura of heaven and earth had already fiercely pressed down. The aura of heaven and earth was the unique aura of Nirvana martial artists. When the 5 Nirvana martial artists joined forces, the 5 auras of heaven and earth layered on top of each other. One could imagine how powerful it was. Longao did not move, nor could he move. Because with his strength, not to mention 1 against 5, even if it was 1-on-1, he would be instantly killed by the other party. The 5 Lords of the Abyss were shocked. They never thought that the other party's strength would be so strong. Just the aura of heaven and earth alone was no small matter. However, the battle had already reached this point. The 5 of them had no way to retreat. They could only brace themselves and fight. The 5 of them joined forces, and the 5 of them turned into palm energy and fiercely struck the old man. Not dodging. What did the old man mean? Wasn't he a little too arrogant? Chapter 1131. The old man didn't dodge, but the 5 didn't show any mercy. All 5 of their palms landed on the 5-element slave. If it was an ordinary Nirvana realm martial artist fighting 1 against 5 and being hit by all 5 at the same time, he would definitely die. But the 5-element slave situation was completely different. It felt like cotton. Seeing that the other party didn't have the slightest reaction, the 5 Lords of the Abyss faces all changed, as if they had seen a ghost. They withdrew their palms and retreated. You. Get lost. Longao's voice was cold, as if it came from hell. If the Longao from before had said this, the 5 of them would have despised and even ridiculed him. But now, the 5-element slave withstood a blow from the 5 Lords of the Abyss, which in itself already showed the old man's strength. The 5 of them thought that even the 5 of them couldn't be a match for the other party. Nirvana rebirth. The 5 of them thought at the same time, Nirvana rebirth, and the 5 of them knew very well what Nirvana rebirth meant. The 5 of them looked very ugly. There was no other way. They had already lost this battle, and if they continued to fight, the possibility of losing was the greatest. The 5 of them turned and left. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared without a trace. Looking at the 5 figures gradually disappearing, Longao let out a long sigh of relief. In the end, the 5 of them were intimidated this time. Otherwise, if the 5 of them continued to attack, the 5-element slave's flaw of only defending and not attacking would definitely be exposed. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, the 5 of them were intimidated by the 5-element slave's strong defense after only one attack. In the distance, the 5 of them were also very surprised. Although the 5 of them had guessed that the other party's strength was definitely not simple, they never thought that the other party's strength would be so strong that he could withstand their joint attack. If the other party chose to take the initiative to attack with such powerful strength, what would the 5 of them do? I can almost say that the other party's strength has reached Nirvana rebirth. Even if the 5 of us join forces, we are no match for him. No wonder Black Wolf is so arrogant, he has nothing to fear. Hearing Hong Lingtong's words, the other 4 lords of the abyss nodded in agreement. Then what should we do now? We can only choose to compromise. Compromise? The 5 of them sighed inwardly. As the abyss masters of the massacre abyss, whether it was status or strength, the 5 of them had never thought of compromising from the beginning to the end. If word of this got out, they would lose a lot of face. Would it work if he didn't compromise? The other party's strength was already there. If they were to meet force with force, there would only be 2 results. One was that the 5 of them would be killed, and the other was that both sides would suffer. The 5 of them didn't want either outcome. With no other choice, the 5 of them finally chose to compromise. The news that Longao had scared off the 5 lords of the deep caves hadn't spread, but anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the 5 lords of the deep caves hadn't said anything even though the dragon sect had been established for 10 days. What was the meaning of that? In other words, the 5 lords of the abyss had already acknowledged the existence of the dragon sect. In other words, the 5 lords of the abyss had chosen to compromise. Was that even possible? No one was willing to believe that the 5 lords of the deep caves would take the initiative to compromise. If it weren't for the fact that the dragon sect still existed intact, no one would choose to believe it at all. This time, everyone joined the dragon sect. In just one day, the speed of the dragon sect's development skyrocketed by hundreds of times. From 100 people at the beginning, it had directly grown to nearly 3,000 people. Such a development speed could be said to be very terrifying. However, the massacre abyss wasn't like the outside world. The base number of people in the massacre abyss wasn't that large. Therefore, to grow to 3,000 people in one day was already very terrifying. The scale of the dragon sect was also expanding. From the beginning, it was a single courtyard, but now it had expanded by hundreds of times. From now on, there was another force in the massacre abyss, and that was the dragon sect. Longao, you're really lucky. This time, you actually managed to scare the 5 lords of the deep caves. He nodded. Longao had always been confident in his luck. However, being able to scare the 5 of them this time, apart from luck, the 5-element slave's contribution was the greatest. The 5-element slave's defensive power was really terrifying. 1 against 5, and he managed to withstand it. But now that he thought about it, he was a little scared. No matter what, the 5-element slave could only defend and couldn't attack. If the 5 of them continued to attack, they would definitely be exposed. He seemed to be able to guess Longao's thoughts. Xiling thought for a moment and said, Longao, no matter who it is, even if it's a Nirvana warrior, if the first attack doesn't succeed, and the 5-element slave doesn't react at all, they will be scared out of their wits. Even you and I would be the same. He nodded. Longao was very clear about what Xiling meant. If nothing unexpected happens, the 5 lords of the deep caves won't act rashly. In the short term, we can develop the dragon sect as much as we want. Longao, have you ever thought that even if your dragon sect develops, without a super powerhouse to oversee it, it will always be a paper tiger. There's no other way. Longao was also helpless because it was easier said than done to find a superpower house to oversee it. If there really was a superpower house, he or she would have been overseeing Longao Peak or a branch of the Dragon Sect. Why wait until now? Longao, although you can't find a superpower house to oversee it, you can arrange a formation. I have already sensed that this place is very special. If we use the power of heaven and earth to arrange the million ancestral swords formation, I believe its power can be increased by more than 10 times. What do you mean? Longao was a little confused by Xiling's words. He didn't know what Xiling was trying to say. He knew the power of the million ancestral swords formation better than anyone else. If he was a god-level formation master, the million ancestral swords formation he arranged might be able to kill a supreme path warrior. As for whether it could kill a supreme path warrior, it was still unknown. Because of this, with his current level of formation skills, even if he could use the power of heaven and earth to arrange the million ancestral swords formation, it was still a big problem whether it could kill a supreme path warrior. Not to mention killing a Nirvana realm warrior, it was simply an unrealistic problem. Longao, if it were any other place, you definitely wouldn't be able to do this. But here, the million ancestral swords formation you arranged can definitely kill a Nirvana realm warrior. Why? Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was also a little expectant and couldn't wait to ask. To be able to kill a Nirvana realm martial artist, if he could really do this, then the rise of the Dragon Sect in the Massacre Abyss was practically an ironclad matter. Such a temptation, even Longao would not be able to withstand it. Chapter 1132. Longao, I have to say that you're really lucky. What was going on? His luck didn't seem to have anything to do with the million ancestral swords formation. Before Longao could ask, Xiling continued, Longao, there's a secret at the bottom of where you're standing. Come with me. He was curious and looking forward to it. Normally, Xiling wouldn't be like this. The more Xiling acted like this, the more Longao looked forward to it. Longao didn't resist. He was instantly enveloped by the purple sword aura. Before he could react, his body had disappeared from the hall. Underground. In the huge cave. Looking at the pitch-black surroundings, Longao did not know why Violet Spirit had brought him to this place. What was it for? Xiling, what's the secret here? He smiled mysteriously. Xiling came to the center of the cave. A powerful sword aura exploded from his body and shrouded the entire cave. The sword aura was everywhere. At this point, Longao still didn't know what Xiling was doing. Silence. Longao did not say anything because he knew very well that Violet Spirit would not bring him here for no reason, nor would she do all this for no reason. Violet Spirit must have her own intentions for doing so. As a powerful genling, the sword aura that exploded from Xiling's body filled the entire cave. After the sword aura filled the empty cave, a huge black ball suddenly appeared in midair. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation in the air. Looking at the black ball that suddenly appeared in midair, Longao was surprised. He didn't know how Xiling had found it. But one had to know that ever since they entered the cave, Longao had already searched once and did not find anything wrong. Could the secret that Xiling was talking about be this black ball? Bai Ling, what's your sister doing? He believed that Bai Ling definitely knew what Xiling was doing. Big brother Long, your luck is really good. There aren't many things in the martial heaven continent that I've found for you. I really didn't expect to find them here. What was that? Xiling was like this, and so was Bai Ling. She couldn't wait to get rid of Longao. Bai Ling, what is it? Big brother Long, have you heard of Sword Chi origin? Sword Chi origin? What was that? Shaking his head, Longao said honestly, no, Bai Ling, what is the origin of sword aura? Big brother Long, Sword Chi core is the core energy of the sword Dao. It's rare in the martial heaven continent. Sword Chi core isn't just useful to sword cultivators, it's also useful to us genling. So that was the case. Longao already knew what the origin of Sword Chi was. He would be lying if he said that he wasn't moved. Bai Ling had already said that the origin of Sword Chi wasn't just useful to him, It was also useful to Xiling and Bai Ling. Since that was the case, why didn't Xiling just devour it? He believed that it would be of great help to Xiling and Bai Ling's cultivation and recovery. However, Xiling didn't do so. Even without Bai Ling's explanation, Longao could guess what Xiling was trying to do. He just wanted to help him. Bai Ling, according to your sister's idea, should we use the origin of sword qi to set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation? That's right. Just as expected. Xiling had already said that the 10,000 ancestral swords formation he set up this time could contend against a Nirvana realm martial artist. If that was the case, Longao could almost guess why Xiling was so confident. It was because of the origin of sword qi. Big brother Long, my sister wants you to use the origin of sword qi to set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation. I want you to devour the origin of sword qi to verify your sword Dao. If nothing goes wrong, the origin of sword qi can help you break through to the titled Great Emperor realm, or even become a 9th heaven demigod. One was to set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation that could kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. The other was to devour the origin of sword qi to quickly increase his strength. It was a dilemma. If it were anyone else, they would definitely choose to devour it. After all, if they were strong, they could at least protect themselves. As for the 10,000 ancestral swords formation, it was a dead thing. Once it was set up, it couldn't be moved. Big brother Long, what's your choice? We'll wait for your sister. Bai Ling and Longao didn't speak. They quietly watched Xiling draw out the so-called origin of sword qi. The black ball was the size of a head. It was shrouded in layers of sword qi that erupted from Xiling's body. Until now, Longao still couldn't feel how terrifying the power of the origin of sword qi was. Longao had already guessed that the black ball that Xiling drew out was the so-called origin of sword qi. The sword qi disappeared. Xiling carefully carried the black ball to the two of them. He exclaimed, "It's hard to imagine. It's really hard to imagine. Once we devour this origin of sword qi, I believe it will be of great help to our cultivation and recovery." Xiling, Bai Ling just told me about the origin of sword qi. Since that's the case, you and Bai Ling can devour the origin of sword qi. The dragon sect won't be short of time. Longao, I've already said that I'm helping you. There's no need to dawdle. I've already calculated. Apart from setting up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation, my sister and I will each take a third of this origin of sword qi. The remaining third is yours. Longao didn't care much about his breakthrough. If he could successfully set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation, it would be indescribably beneficial to the development of the branch of the dragon sect. By then, the dragon sect would be as stable as Mount Tai. Even if the 5 Abyss Lords came, the dragon sect wouldn't have the slightest fear. Xiling, I want to ask, if I use the origin of sword qi to set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation, can I kill a Nirvana realm martial artist? No. No. Upon hearing Xiling's words, Longao was completely confused. Xiling had just said that the 10,000 ancestral swords formation he set up could kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. Why couldn't it work in the blink of an eye? Longao, if I use all of the origin of sword qi in my hands to set up the 10,000 ancestral swords formation, then I can guarantee that the sword formation can kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. However, it's impossible to set up the entire formation. My sister and I need the origin of sword qi very much, and so do you. How could Longao not know what Xiling had said? No matter what, the origin of sword qi was found by Xiling. He had no right to speak at all. But Longao, according to my guess, even if I give you half of the origin of sword qi and use it to set up the formation, even if you can't kill a Nirvana realm martial artist, you can still trap him outside. Then, killing a martial artist below the Nirvana realm will be a piece of cake. He was more or less unwilling, but since things had already come to this point, he had no choice but to agree. Chapter 1133. Sword Aura Origin. Xiling first split the Sword Aura Origin into two. Half of it was used to set up the formation while the other half was given to the three of them. The other half of the sword aura origin was split into 3 again. 1/3 was given to Xiling, 1/3 to Bai Ling, and 1/3 to Longao. Brother Long, I'll give you my sword aura origin. Sister. He shook his head. Bai Ling's face was firm as she said, Sister, I believe you know my situation very well. This sword aura origin is almost useless. Bai Ling was a little disappointed. She was a little weary, but more than that, she was in despair. Looking at Bai Ling's expression, Longao didn't know why, but he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. If Brother Long can devour this sword aura origin, I believe it won't be a problem for him to break through to the titled Great Emperor realm. If he's lucky, he might even break through to the demigod realm. Hearing his sister's words, Xiling let out a deep sigh. Sister, you're really silly. Why do you have to do this? Sister. She waved her hand. Longao's face was equally firm as he said, Bai Ling, I know you're doing this for my own good. However, I definitely can't take this sword aura origin. Brother Long, without giving Bai Ling any chance to speak, Longao continued, Bai Ling, you just said that this sword aura origin isn't very useful to you. However, it should still be somewhat useful. Let's not give up. If 1 year isn't enough, we'll take 2 years. If 2 years isn't enough, we'll take 3 years. I don't believe that you won't recover one day. This was Longao's character. Bai Ling, if you don't devour the sword aura origin, I won't devour it either. All right, sister. Even if Longao can devour your sword aura origin, he won't be able to break through to the demigod realm. She looked at her sister and then at Longao. In the end, Bai Ling didn't say anything. She turned into a white light and shot into the god-slaying sword. Seeing this situation, regardless of whether it was Xiling or Longao, they both heaved a sigh of relief. Longao, I have something to tell you. As he spoke, Xiling emitted a powerful sword chi that enveloped the two of them. My sister can't hear our conversation. Longao, I want to ask you now. Do you know that my sister likes you? He nodded. Longao was not a cold-blooded animal. He had already noticed Bai Ling's feelings for him. In the beginning, Longao wasn't sure. But as time passed and he spent more time with Bai Ling, he slowly realized that Bai Ling seemed to like him. Longao more or less couldn't bear it in his heart. In Longao's heart, there were only 2 women. One was Aoshue, and the other was Yu Yin. Besides them, Longao really didn't want to accept any other woman. Xiling seemed to be able to guess Longao's thoughts. He sighed and said, Longao, my sister is very kind. She never wants to hurt anyone. Especially you. I also like it if you don't hurt her. I know. You don't know. I know that you only have Yu Yin and Aoshue in your heart. But Longao, I want to remind you. My sister has done so much for you. She's such a kind girl. Don't let her down. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Longao wasn't afraid of Xiling. He really didn't want to hurt Bai Ling. Just as Xiling had said, Bai Ling was so kind. Not to mention himself, he believed that no matter who it was, no one would have the heart to hurt such a kind person. What should he do? Longao didn't say anything. In this situation, he really didn't know what to do. Accept. Reject. If he accepted, he would be lying to himself. At the same time, he would be lying to Bai Ling. If he rejected, he really couldn't bear to hurt Bai Ling. He was in a dilemma. Longao, I didn't ask you to accept my sister immediately. You can take your time. After Xiling finished speaking, he turned into a purple light and disappeared. Longao was the only one left in the cave. It was empty. It was quiet. Longao stood alone in the cave. In his mind, he thought about Bai Ling. After such a long time together, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't moved by Bai Ling's kindness. However, Longao still couldn't get over it. If he accepted Bai Ling, how could he face Aoshue and Yu Yin? Not wanting to continue thinking about this problem, Longao directly devoured 1/3 of the sword chi origin. According to Xiling and Bai Ling, once he devoured and refined the sword chi origin, his cultivation could continue to increase. It wasn't impossible for him to break through from the peak gold rank Great Emperor to the titled Great Emperor realm. One had to know. The peak gold rank Great Emperor realm was only one step away from the titled Great Emperor realm. For others, this step might be very difficult. However, for Longao, as long as he had enough power, it was simply a piece of cake. This was the so-called comparison. After devouring the sword chi origin, Longao immediately circulated the sword chi in his body. He believed that using the sword chi to refine the sword chi origin would be much faster. The dragon sect's influence continued to expand. The 5 Abyss Masters didn't interfere in the slightest, and the others didn't even dare to stop them. Just like that, the dragon sect's rapid rise into the slaughter abyss. Perhaps it happened so quickly that some people didn't even have time to react. Everyone was wary of Black Wolf's strength. As for Fatty and Skinny, they were a pain in the ass. Everyone in the massacre abyss knew that no matter if it was Fatty or Skinny, they were only Great Emperor realm martial artists. With such strength, how could they survive in the city? But even so, Fatty and Skinny somehow got lucky and followed Hei Lang, who suddenly rose to prominence. Now, they were doing very well. Those who used to bully the two of them now had to lower their heads and bow when they saw the two of them. It was still the same saying. In the massacre abyss, the strong were respected. As long as you had a strong enough fist, you were the master. You could set the rules of the massacre abyss. After all, the rules of the massacre abyss were set by the 5 Abyss Masters. Fatty, I haven't seen the master for a long time. Do you know where the master went? Shaking his head, Fatty also didn't know. He said, the master has always been elusive. The dragon sect has just been established. I believe the master has a lot of things to deal with. As for the dragon sect's matters, we will help the master as much as we can. You're right. I've already thought about it. We'll rescreen the disciples who enter the sect. Even if we accept fewer disciples, they can't be bad. What do you think? Almost all the disciples the dragon sect accepted were great emperors. As for Great Emperor realm martial artists above the purple rank, there were very few of them. After all, the dragon sect was still a little lacking compared to the 5 Abyss Masters. You're right. We only need elites. We must have a solid foundation. Otherwise, we'll always be the ones to suffer. Chapter 1134. Looking at their big brother who suddenly appeared in front of them, Fatty and Skinny were overjoyed. I'll leave this matter to you two. You may leave. Fatty and Skinny did not stay any longer. They turned around and slowly retreated. After devouring the sword chi origin, his cultivation base did not improve at all. He had to admit that the sword chi origin was really powerful. Longao had calculated that it would not be easy to refine the sword chi origin. However, as Xiling said, once he refined and integrated the sword chi origin, it would not be difficult for his cultivation base to break through from peak gold rank Great Emperor to titled Great Emperor. In the following time, Longao devoted himself to setting up the formation because it was related to the future development of the sword sect branch. If it could really withstand the attack of a Nirvana martial artist, then the dragon sect would be able to gain a firm foothold. Longao established the dragon sect in the massacre abyss, but he did not become the Abyss Master. The reason was simple. Longao was not a Nirvana martial artist. Even if he scared off the 5 Abyss Masters with the help of the 5-element slave, he was not qualified to become the Abyss Master. He believed that the other 5 Abyss Masters would not admit it. Longao did not care about this matter. In Longao's opinion, it was fine as long as the dragon sect could slowly infiltrate the massacre abyss. As for whether he could become the Abyss Master, it was not important at all. In the massacre abyss, the wind blew and the clouds moved. Everyone was waiting for the 5 Abyss Masters to find trouble with the dragon sect. The result disappointed everyone because from beginning to end, the 5 Abyss Masters did not look for the dragon sect. Did the 5 Abyss Masters really admit the existence of the dragon sect? Unbelievable. If it were not for the fact that the dragon sect was still alive and well, 99% of the people would not believe that the 5 Abyss Masters would choose to give up just like that. The East Abyss Master Hong Lingtong, the South Abyss Master Yang Ling, the West Abyss Master Luo Qingfeng, the North Abyss Master, and the Middle Abyss Master Yi Chen. In the Massacre Abyss, the 5 Abyss Masters sat quietly in the pavilion. No one spoke and each of them looked solemn. As the Lords of the Deep Caves, how could the 5 of them not know that Black Wolf had established the Dragon Sect and developed it rapidly? The Black Wolf's ambition is not limited to this. If my guess is correct, the Black Wolf's next step will be to gradually deal with us, and then take over the entire Massacre Abyss. In response to Hong Lingtong's words, the other 4 nodded in agreement. Even if he knew, what could he do? The other party's strength was there for all to see. Not to mention a one-on-one, even if it was a 5-on-1 situation, they would not be able to defeat the other party. Now that he thought about it, he felt a lingering fear. The other party stood there motionlessly and took a palm strike from the 5 of them. What kind of concept was this? Seeing that the 4 of them were silent, Hong Lingtong raised his voice and said, "Are we just going to let Black Wolf continue to develop like this? Brother Hong, what do you want us to do? If the 5 of us could kill him, we wouldn't be sitting here right now." How could Hong Lingtong not know about this? As the Lord of the Abyss, the 5 of them couldn't even control Black Wolf even after working together. No matter what, they had lost a lot of face. Hand it over to others. They were unwilling. The 5 Lords of the Abyss were very unwilling, but what could they do even if they were unwilling? I've just received news that Black Wolf has begun to expand. In just a few dozen days, the Dragon Sect has occupied 1/10 of the city's territory. At this rate, in less than a month, they'll occupy 1/5 of the city. At that time, we can only retreat indefinitely. When would there be an end to retreating? At this moment. Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle Abyss, suddenly said, "Black Wolf is from a Long family. We're almost certain of this. How could a mere great emperor martial artist have the help of a Nirvana martial artist?" How could the other 4 not know what Yi Chen meant? As Yi Chen said, if Black Wolf did not have a backer behind him, would Black Wolf alone have the courage to do so? Going against the entire Massacre Abyss was practically a suicidal move. Not to mention Black Wolf, no matter who it was, as long as there was water in their brains, they would not do this. Could it be that Black Wolf's backer was the so-called Long family? The 5 of them looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. If it was really a Long family involved in this matter, then there would be big trouble. Long family, one of the 10 tripod. Whether it was strength or foundation, it was clearly there. If the Long clan really interfered, could the Massacre Abyss contend against them? Do you think it's possible? It's very possible. Black Wolf alone wouldn't dare to do this. To be able to dispatch a Nirvana reborn martial artist, other than the 10 tripod, I really can't think of any other force that can do this. There was an agreement back then that the 10 tripod would not interfere in the affairs of the Massacre Abyss. Long family doing this now, isn't it breaking the agreement? Long family was like a huge mountain, pressing down on the 5 of them so hard that they could not breathe. For a moment, the pavilion fell into silence again. Things had reached this point and the 5 of them did not know what to do. Dealing with Black Wolf, isn't that the same as dealing with the Long family? Long family, the Massacre Abyss simply could not afford to provoke them. Not to mention, behind the Long family was the entire dragon race. Once war broke out, if the Long family wanted to destroy the Massacre Abyss, it would be a matter of minutes. But what the 5 of them could not figure out was why the Long family would interfere in the Massacre Abyss for no reason. After all, for so many years, the 10 tripod had never done this. Just what was going on? If the 5 of them knew that Longao did not belong to the Long family, and that his interference in the Massacre Abyss this time was not the will of the Long family, but Longao himself, who knew what the 5 of them would do. Also, the 5-element slave only knew how to defend and would not take the initiative to attack. If the 5 of them knew this, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. After all, as long as they continued to attack, they would definitely be able to find out the secret. But the 5 of them already had no chance. The 5 of them joined forces to attack the old man, but there was no reaction at all. The 5 of them were already intimidated. If the 5 of them were to attack again, even if they were beaten to death, they would not do so. The 5 of them did not know what to do. After all, One black wolf was already difficult enough to deal with. Now that the black wolf had a Long family behind him, the 5 of them were all guessing what the Long family wanted. In the end, the 5 of them discussed and decided to wait and see. They would let the black wolf develop first, and then they would see what the Long family meant. If the Long family really interfered in the massacre abyss, then they would have to reconsider what to do. After all, the Long family was right there. Inside the pavilion, the 5 of them did not speak again. Each of them had a dignified expression. P.S. Chapter 8 has been delivered. Little 9 has eaten first, and we will continue to work later. I hope everyone will vote and support us. Thank you. Chapter 11:35. The 5 Lords of the Abyss watched quietly. Longao didn't go too far. If he pushed the 5 Lords of the Abyss too hard, it would only result in a lose-lose situation. That was exactly the case. When the dragon sect developed to a certain point, Longao immediately stopped it from continuing to develop. In the following time, apart from setting up the formation, Longao spent the rest of his time refining the sword chi origin in his body. Great Emperor 10th Realm. Longao's cultivation had already broken through the peak gold rank Great Emperor realm. He was only one step away from officially breaking through to the titled Great Emperor realm. However, this step was extremely difficult to break through. The sword chi origin was extremely difficult to refine. Massacre Abyss, inside the city. The previous situation had been completely disrupted. The current situation was that the 5 Lords of the Abyss and the Dragon sect dominated the city at the same time. Even if the 5 Lords of the Abyss were unwilling, they could only choose to acquiesce. In the restaurant. Fang Hui sat alone in the restaurant. His face was extremely gloomy, and it was as ugly as it could get. Until now, Fang Hui didn't expect Black Wolf to be so powerful. Not only did he scare off the West Heavenly King, but he even scared off the 5 Lords of the Abyss. What did this mean? He knew very well what the 5 Lords of the Abyss meant. There was no doubt that Black Wolf had the strength of a Lord of the Abyss, which was the so-called Nirvana strength. Fang Hui wasn't worried about the situation changing. The only thing he was worried about was that Black Wolf would find trouble with him. Are you scared? Hearing the sudden voice, Fang Hui shuddered. What he was afraid of really happened. He stood up from his seat and looked at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him in shock. Longao stood coldly in front of Fang Hui, dressed in black with long blood-red hair. Black Wolf, what do you want? At this moment, Fang Hui couldn't help but tremble. He knew that the other party was just a little Great Emperor realm martial artist, but he still couldn't help it. After all, the other party had scared away the West Heavenly King and the 5 Lords of the Abyss. His strength was already there. Could he do it alone? Fang Hui was almost certain that with the other party's strength, it was almost a matter of minutes if he wanted to kill him. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Otherwise, you would have died here. This was the truth. Although Longao wasn't strong enough to kill Fang Hui, Longao had 10 Divine Dragon Corps slaves. If he launched a sneak attack, Fang Hui wouldn't even have a chance to react. Black Wolf, what do you want? Fang Hui wasn't a fool. He knew very well that Black Wolf wouldn't appear for no reason. He definitely had a motive. The more Black Wolf acted like this, the more uncertain Fang Hui became. He didn't know what Black Wolf wanted. I want to see Hong Lingtong. Hong Lingtong? Fang Hui was very surprised to hear that Black Wolf wanted to see Hong Lingtong because Hong Lingtong was one of the 5 Lords of the Abyss, the Lord of the Eastern Abyss. Why did Black Wolf want to see the Master of the Abyss? You're not willing? No, Black Wolf, if I take you there, will you really let me go? Fang Hui was extremely depressed because things had already come to this point. Even Hong Lingtong couldn't protect him. After all, Black Wolf was too strong. He could even scare away the 5 Lords of the Abyss. This in itself was enough to explain the problem. Do you have the right to bargain with me? Longao suddenly released the aura of heaven and earth, which turned into sword chi and pressed down fiercely. In terms of aura alone, Fang Hui was definitely no match for Longao. With the previous lesson, Fang Hui certainly didn't dare to make a move at this time. His face became more and more unsightly. He nodded and said, "Follow me." Longao didn't go alone. After all, he didn't want to start a fight with Hong Lingtong. If Fang Hui led the way, everything would be easier. Abyss Mansion. Hong Lingtong was the only one in the entire hall. He sat quietly at the head of the hall. No one knew what he was thinking in his mind. "Lord, what's the matter?" Seeing that it was the West Heaven King's subordinate, Hong Lingtong seemed a little surprised. In the next second, Hong Lingtong's face changed slightly because a young man suddenly appeared beside Fang Hui. It was none other than Black Wolf. "Lord, Black Wolf wants to see you." "See me?" Hong Lingtong was a little surprised because in this situation, he and Black Wolf were already incompatible. Maybe in the future, it would develop into a situation where either you die or I die. In this case, what did Black Wolf want from me? Does he want to defeat me one by one? Thinking of this, Hong Lingtong was ready to leave at any time. "Black Wolf, what do you want from me?" Longao didn't say anything. He just glanced at Fang Hui beside him. His meaning was obvious. Fang Hui was tactful. He slowly turned around and left. After a while, he disappeared without a trace. At this moment, Longao said straightforwardly, "Hong Lingtong, I believe you are also a straightforward person. In this case, let's get straight to the point. I came to you this time mainly because I want to cooperate with you." Cooperation? This time, Hong Lingtong became more and more curious. He didn't know what the cooperation Black Wolf was talking about was. "Hong Lingtong, the massacre abyss has always been jointly managed by the five of you. Needless to say, I know the relationship between you. You all fight openly and secretly, and you all want to kill each other so that you can dominate the entire massacre abyss." Longao was straightforward enough. That was why Hong Lingtong didn't say anything, because what Black Wolf said was right. The five Abyss Lords were fighting openly and secretly. If it weren't for the fact that their strength was almost the same, the outcome would have been decided long ago. There was no need to wait until now. But even so, what could he do? After all, this was known by everyone in the massacre abyss. It was not a secret. What I mean is very simple. Instead of dividing the world with them, why don't you divide the massacre abyss equally with me? By then, you and I will jointly control the massacre abyss and mind our own business. What do you think? So that's how it is. Looking at the young man in front of him, Hong Lingtong finally understood the purpose of Black Wolf's visit this time. What a big tone, what a big ambition. Hong Lingtong had already guessed that Black Wolf's ambition was definitely not limited to this. It seemed that he had guessed correctly. Black Wolf didn't want to divide the world equally, and even dominate the entire massacre abyss. Hong Lingtong didn't immediately answer. His face was expressionless, and no one knew what he was thinking. Longao also didn't rush him, because this matter wasn't simple. If Hong Lingtong immediately agreed, it would be strange. Longao had already thought about it. It would be very difficult to enter the massacre abyss by himself. Even if he could temporarily gain a foothold, what about the future? In order to consider the long term, Longao finally decided to find a partner, and that was Hong Lingtong. When the time came, he would defeat them one by one and divide the world equally with Hong Lingtong. As for Hong Lingtong, there would only be two results. Either he would die, or he would choose to submit. P.S. Chapter 9 has been delivered. There are still several chapters in the evening. Everyone, please count your tickets. Little 9 has already done his best. Chapter 1136. In the main hall. Neither of them spoke. It was quiet. Black Wolf, you? He sneered. Longao had already guessed that the other party would say so, so he was not surprised at all. Hong Lingtong, since you don't want to, I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye. Looking at Black Wolf who was about to leave, Hong Lingtong never thought that Black Wolf would leave just like that. He immediately shouted, "Wait." He turned around. Hong Lingtong, cut the crap. Do you agree? Black Wolf's aura was too strong. Because of this, The more Black Wolf acted like this, the more Hong Lingtong did not dare to act rashly. If he missed this opportunity, Black Wolf would join forces with others to deal with him. What should he do then? Black Wolf, I believe you know the strength of the 4 Lords of the Abyss better than I do. Even if you and I join forces, it's impossible to fight against the 4 of them. What do you think? Longao had already guessed Hong Lingtong's meaning. In the end, Hong Lingtong was not willing to act casually before he had full confidence. Once he could not fight against the 4 Lords of the Abyss, wouldn't it be like going for wool and coming home shorn? Hong Lingtong, you have personally verified the strength of my servant. I want to ask you, can the 5 of you defeat my servant if you join forces? As soon as his voice fell, the 5 elements servant suddenly appeared beside Longao, without the slightest aura fluctuation, just like an ordinary person. Shocked, Hong Lingtong sensed carefully, but still could not sense the strength and aura of the other party. The more the 5 elements servant acted like this, the more uncertain Hong Lingtong was. Not to mention, when the 5 of them joined forces to attack the old man at the same time, it was like hitting cotton. With such strength, one could imagine how powerful it was. The 5 of them were not a match for the other party even if they joined forces, let alone if they fought alone. Hei Lang's own strength was not much. Not to mention the 5 of them, even if any random Supreme Dao martial artist came out, they could easily annihilate Hei Lang. But Black Wolf had such a powerful Nirvana rebirth martial artist by his side. Forget about deity Dao martial artists, even Nirvana martial artists were unable to contend. Black Wolf, there's no problem with our cooperation. I just want to know what you're going to do next. Destroy them one by one. Hong Lingtong was intrigued. For so many years, the 5 Abyss Masters had been fighting both openly and covertly to kill each other and dominate the Slaughter Abyss. However, the 5 Lords of the Deep Caves were on par with each other in terms of strength, and none of them could do anything to each other. Now that there was such a great opportunity before him, Hong Lingtong wouldn't believe it if he didn't want to. Following that, Longao roughly explained his thoughts once through. After hearing that, Hong Lingtong nodded with satisfaction. Black Wolf, I have no objections to what you said just now. Let's break them one by one. Defeating 4 Lords of the Abyss at the same time was easier said than done. In Hong Lingtong's heart, he was more or less a little surprised because he really couldn't figure out why Black Wolf wanted to break them one by one if he had the strength to deal with the 5 of them. Could it be that Black Wolf was not as powerful as he thought? Seeing Hong Lingtong's expression, Longao secretly cursed in his heart. He had thought for so long and missed this point. Longao was prepared to leave immediately once Hong Lingtong made the slightest move. As for what would happen in the future, that was a matter for the future. However, Hong Lingtong only had a slight suspicion and did not think too much about it. He smiled and said, Black Wolf, who are you going to deal with first? The Slaughter Abyss had 5 Lords of the Abyss. Hong Lingtong, the Lord of the East, Yang Ling, the Lord of the South, Luo Qingfeng, the Lord of the West, Yi Chen, the Lord of the North, and Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle. Now, the Lord of the East Abyss had planned to cooperate with Longao, which was the so-called alliance, to destroy them one by one. The remaining 4 Lords of the Abyss were Yang Ling, the Lord of the South, Luo Qingfeng, the Lord of the West, Yi Chen, the Lord of the North, and Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle. Which Lord of the Abyss should they start with? Longao thought for a moment and said, we'll deal with Yi Chen first. Now. No need, let me prepare. The Dragon Sect has just entered the Slaughter Abyss and its foundation is not stable yet. I'm going to stabilize the Dragon Sect first. A month later, we'll deal with Yi Chen. Hong Lingtong nodded in agreement. Since things had come to this point, Longao turned and left. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. Looking at Black Wolf who had left, Hong Lingtong's face instantly turned cold. You want to join forces with me to deal with them? Hong Lingtong was not a fool. If he really joined forces with Black Wolf to deal with the other 4 Lords of the Abyss, Black Wolf would certainly turn against him. If that was the case, would he be able to contend with Black Wolf with his strength alone? What should he do? After leaving the Abyss Mansion, Longao did not return to the Dragon Sect branch. On the surface, Hong Lingtong had agreed to join forces with him to deal with the four Lords of the Abyss. However, whether Hong Lingtong would really take action was still unknown. Because of this, Longao did not completely trust Hong Lingtong. Longao did not stop at all. He immediately looked for the remaining Lords of the Abyss one by one. They were Yang Ling, the Lord of the South, Luo Qingfeng, the Lord of the West, Yi Chen, the Lord of the North, and Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted to mess up the five Lords of the Abyss. At that time, even if he did not take action, he believed that the five Lords of the Abyss would be suspicious of each other and fight. If that was the case, then he could reap the benefits. However, the five Lords of the Abyss usually fought openly and secretly. The reason they did not fight was because they were afraid of each other's strength. They lacked a fuse. If he could become the fuse, then the five of them would definitely go to war. Next, Longao met with Yang Ling, the Lord of the South, Luo Qingfeng, the Lord of the West, Yi Chen, the Lord of the North, and Yi Chen, the Lord of the Middle. The topics they discussed were almost the same as Hong Lingtong's. The answers of the other four were also the same as Hong Lingtong's. This time, the five of them did not reunite. It was still the same sentence. The five of them more or less had their own ulterior motives. They all wanted to kill each other. Because of this, the five of them thought that Black Wolf was the best opportunity. Everyone was scheming against each other. Just as Longao had guessed, ever since he met with the five of them, they began to guard against the others. After all, at this moment, no one could say for sure who would betray who. Everything had a what if. What if he was caught off guard? After meeting the five Lords of the Abyss, Longao immediately returned to the Dragon Sect branch. He shut himself in and did not see anyone. Next, what he had to do was to wait and see what the five of them would do next. P.S. If you are not willing to give your votes, Little Nine will not say much. Those who support Little Nine, I hope you will vote your recommendation votes and monthly votes for Longao. Little Nine thanks. Chapter 1137. Inside the Massacre Abyss. The five Lords of the Abyss each had their own agenda and did not reunite. They were all on guard against each other. In the Eastern Abyss Mansion. In the main hall. Sir, just now, the Lord of the Abyss in the south suddenly declared war on us. In just a few hours, we suffered heavy losses. At this moment, there were four people standing in the middle of the hall. They were the four Heavenly Kings, the Eastern Heavenly King, the Western Heavenly King, the Southern Heavenly King, and the Northern Heavenly King. The four Heavenly Kings were Hong Lingtong's right-hand men. All four of them were supreme martial artists of the divine path and were well-known figures in the Massacre Abyss. Hearing the report, Hong Lingtong's face turned cold instantly. Hong Lingtong could not figure out why the Lord of the Abyss in the south would suddenly attack them. Sir, what should we do now? Hong Lingtong lowered his head and thought for a moment. Mitch, before we figure things out, let's wait and see. The five Lords of the Abyss in the east, west, north, south, and central. Longao had looked for each of them. The other four Lords of the Abyss did not make a move. Only the Lord of the South, Yang Ling, seemed to be unable to take it and finally made a move. The first person he chose to deal with was the Lord of the East, Hong Lingtong. Regarding this point, even Longao had never thought of it. A branch of the Dragon Sect. Brother Black Wolf, I've done as you said and faced the Lord of the East head-on. When will you fulfill your promise to me? He sneered in his heart. Regarding the characters of the five people, Longao more or less had some understanding. Yang Ling was the only one among the five Lords of the Abyss who was sinister and ambitious. Longao took advantage of this person's weakness and used the right medicine. Yang Ling, I will never go back on what I said before. As long as we eliminate the other four Lords of the Abyss and divide the Massacre Abyss equally, I will give you the space-time. Longao's plan was simple. He would use the space-time artifact as bait and use Yang Ling as an opening to provoke a war between the five Lords of the Abyss. He would then reap the benefits. Nodding, Yang Ling agreed. Black Wolf, I'm curious. With the strength of the Elder beside you, it's not difficult for him to dominate the massacre abyss alone. Why do you have to do this? Yang Ling only asked tentatively. It wasn't just Yang Ling, even the other 4 lords of the abyss couldn't figure it out. The fact that the old man was able to take on the 5 of them by himself meant that the old man's strength was above the 5 of them. If that was the case, with the old man's strength, it would not be difficult for him to dominate the massacre abyss. But what was the result? Black Wolf and the old man did not make a move, completely confusing the 5 of them. How could Longao not know what Yang Ling meant? Yang Ling, you and I are already allies. There are some things that I won't hide from you. I borrowed that servant of mine from somewhere else. Our agreement was that the servant would only be responsible for my safety and would not help me deal with the massacre abyss. Do you understand now? Dupe. It had to be said that Longao was good at tricking people. Yang Ling nodded, indicating that he understood. In fact, Yang Ling was more or less unhappy. The reason was simple. No matter how powerful the old man beside Black Wolf was, he could only help Black Wolf and could not attack the other 4 lords of the abyss. In other words, he could fight the 4 of them alone. Did he have the strength to do so? Black Wolf, now that things have come to this, I'll be honest with you. With my strength alone, I don't have the confidence to fight the 4 of them alone. Yang Ling, I understand what you mean. As long as we take each step carefully, I believe that the 4 of them won't make a move themselves in the short term. As long as we occupy the massacre abyss first, then we can set up a trap for the 4 of them to deal with my servant. With you and my servant working together, it won't be difficult to kill the 4 of them. Since he had already said this, Yang Ling did not continue to talk nonsense. He turned and left the hall, disappearing without a trace in a short while. Brother Long, do you really believe what Yang Ling said? For some reason, Bai Ling had appeared more frequently now. In the past, Longao could treat her calmly, but ever since Xiling had made it clear, every time he saw Bai Ling, Longao would feel a bit awkward. Although Yang Ling is sinister, he's also abnormally greedy. As long as we grasp this point, I don't believe that he'll be able to cause much trouble. Brother Long, you have to be careful. After all, the 5 element slaves can only defend, not attack. If Yang Ling plays any tricks, you'll be in great trouble. How could Longao not understand the meaning behind Bai Ling's words? This time, I can only take 1 step at a time in the massacre abyss. I've already thought about it. If I can dominate the massacre abyss, it will be of great help to my rise in the martial heaven continent. Bai Ling seemed to want to say something else, but in the end, she swallowed her words. Bai Ling was very clear about Longao's character. Once he decided on something, under normal circumstances, he would not change his mind. Yang Ling and Longao's alliance was unknown to the other 4 Abyss Masters. Yang Ling's sudden declaration of war against Hong Lingtong shook the entire massacre abyss. In all these years, the 5 Abyss Masters had fought openly and secretly, but this had never happened before. Now, 2 Abyss Masters had declared war against each other. What was the meaning of this? To be safe, Hong Lingtong wanted to see Yang Ling and see what Yang Ling meant. For some reason, Hong Lingtong felt that Yang Ling's sudden declaration of war against him was related to Black Wolf. If he fell for someone else's trick for no reason, then it wouldn't be worth it. In the past, Hong Lingtong had wanted to see Yang Ling, but he had never imagined that Yang Ling would shut the door and refuse to see him. Hong Lingtong didn't see Yang Ling, so he wanted to see the other 3 Abyss Masters. Unfortunately, the other 3 Abyss Masters also refused to see him. Now, Yang Ling was afraid. If Black Wolf really joined forces with the other 4 Abyss Masters to deal with him, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Hong Lingtong didn't want to start a war with Yang Ling, because when the Sandpiper and the Clam fought, the fishermen would benefit. He didn't want to benefit Black Wolf. He didn't want to fight, but it didn't mean that Yang Ling was willing to stop. He had no choice. Hong Lingtong could only accept the challenge. As Hong Lingtong accepted the challenge, a great battle broke out between the 2 sides. They went back and forth, fighting to their heart's content. When Yang Ling and Hong Lingtong started fighting, The other 3 Abyss Masters didn't intervene. They wanted to watch the fight from the other side. If the 2 really got into a lose-lose situation, whether it was them or Black Wolf who intervened, it would always be a good thing for them. But the result? Before the 3 Abyss Masters could react, for some reason, the 3 of them were also involved in the battle. This time, the 5 Abyss Masters of the Massacre Abyss were all involved in the battle. P.S. Brothers, you're right. Little 9 didn't write the book for tickets, but for you, so that more people can read the book. Little 9 went in the wrong direction. He took a good rest today and only started writing at 8:30. Tomorrow, 10 chapters will be released. It's not for anything else but for the brothers who support Little 9. Chapter 1138. In the Massacre Abyss, the strong were respected. In the Massacre Abyss, the 5 Lords of the Abyss were the masters, in charge of the entire Abyss, and no one dared to go against them. For 50 years, the situation in the Massacre Abyss had hardly changed. No one dared to provoke the 5 Lords of the Abyss. For some unknown reason, the 5 Lords of the Abyss suddenly started a war at this moment, and the scene was grand and rare. What on earth happened? A branch of the Dragon sect. Longao, who received the news, was also pleasantly surprised. It seemed that Yang Ling was really powerful. In just a few days, he had caused the other 4 to be involved in a battle. If this situation continued, the 5 of them would soon have a winner. Once both sides suffered, it would be a good thing regardless of whether he could reap the benefits. Master, the 5 Lords of the Abyss have started a war. What should we do now? What do you think? The fat man and the skinny man were no longer the same as before. Longao used the Dragon Seal space to forcefully raise their strength from the Black Grade Great Emperor realm to the Gold Grade Great Emperor realm. They were only one step away from becoming titled Great Emperors. The 2 were extremely surprised. Because they never thought that their big brother could forcibly raise their strength. Under normal circumstances, who knew how long it would take to do this? Master, we have some ideas. Speak. Master, the 5 Lords of the Abyss have started a war. If we watch from the sidelines and reap the benefits, I'm afraid we can't do it. After all, the 5 Lords of the Abyss can't fight in person. Longao already understood what fatty and skinny meant. What the 2 of them said was not without reason. Longao didn't say anything because he didn't expect Fatty and Skinny to say such things. It seemed that he had underestimated them before. Master, our dragon sect can use this war to speed up our development. At that time, even if the 5 Lords of the Abyss are evenly matched, we can still rise. Fatty thought for a moment and continued, if nothing unexpected happens, we can use this opportunity to expand our forces at least 10 times. That made sense. I'll leave this matter to the 2 of you. Just remember one thing, take each step carefully and don't be too hasty. Upon hearing the master's words, both the fat man and the skinny man were overjoyed. They hurriedly said, Master, we'll do it right away. After the fatty and skinny left, Longao was the only one left in the hall. Longao pondered over the conversation between the 2 of them. Just as the 2 of them had said, the 5 Lords of the Abyss would not be affected much regardless of the outcome of the battle. After all, the 5 Lords of the Abyss would not casually take action if there was no enmity between them. Compared to the 5 abyssal mansions, the Dragon Sect's foundation was still too weak. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longao also wanted to see the talents of the 2 and see how they would rise in this battle. If it was really possible, he was prepared to nurture them. Longao had already thought about it. Even if he could dominate the Massacre Abyss in the future, he would still have to leave. If he didn't find a representative, who would manage the Massacre Abyss in the future? Longao didn't care much about the battle between the 5 Lords of the Abyss. He left it all to Fatty and Skinny, while he himself found a quiet place to quietly refine the sword aura origin. Xiling, Bai Ling, why can't I refine the sword aura origin no matter how hard I try? Longao was extremely depressed about this matter. He originally thought that it wouldn't be too difficult to refine the sword aura origin with his strength, but he didn't expect that after such a long time, he still hadn't succeeded. Could it be that there was something wrong with him? Xiling and Bai Ling's figures appeared. They were also a little curious, because even the two of them didn't know why. Bai Ling shook her head and said, "Brother Long, according to your attainments in swordsmanship, you should be able to refine the sword aura origin very quickly." "Why?" Bai Ling didn't continue. Instead, she looked at Xiling and asked, "Sister, do you know why?" "Longao, I've just sensed it. If I'm not mistaken, it should be because your sword aura is too domineering, and the sword aura origin is soft. Hardness and softness clash. I think it will be very difficult for you to refine the sword aura origin in the future, let alone now." Longao could roughly understand what Xiling said. "Xiling, in that case, can I transfer the sword aura origin in my body to you?" Longao knew very well what the sword aura origin meant. If he just wasted it like this, it would be a reckless waste. The best way was to find a way to transfer the sword aura origin in his body to the two of them. The sword aura origin was more useful to Jianling. Xiling and Bai Ling obviously knew what Longao meant. Xiling shook her head and said helplessly, "You've already devoured the sword aura origin. It's impossible to transfer it out. Sister, help Brother Long and see how we can refine the sword aura origin." Xiling glared fiercely at Bai Ling and said angrily, "Longao, don't touch the sword aura origin first. Let me think about it and see what we can do." Since things had already come to this point, this was the only way. Longao didn't continue to refine the sword aura origin. He sat on the ground and began to cultivate quietly. One day later, in the dragon seal space, Longao asked curiously, "Long Fu, can you really do what you said just now?" Longao was very curious. While he was cultivating, Long Fu had suddenly sent him a spiritual sense transmission, telling him to fuse with the firmament-devouring art. Not to mention fusing with it, just thinking about it made him feel that it was a little impossible. Long Fu's meaning was very simple. After 2 bloodline awakenings, the innate ability had evolved. Not only could it lock onto the enemy's body, but it could also devour them. The firmament-devouring art could also devour the soul, flesh, and blood of others. Once the two were integrated, it was easy to imagine how terrifying the power would be. "Master, I've thought about this for a long time. I can guarantee that once the firmament-devouring art and the innate ability are integrated, the power will increase by 3 times. It will be of great help to Master when fighting against enemies." Longao nodded. Of course, he knew about this. Not to mention the integration, just the firmament-devouring art and the innate ability were extremely powerful. However, Longao wasn't a fool. It wasn't easy to integrate them. "Long Fu, what should I do?" Since things had already come to this point, Longao naturally wanted to integrate the firmament-devouring art and the innate ability. If he could succeed, it would really help him. "Master, just follow the method I taught you. You just have to integrate it slowly. Don't be too hasty." In the following time, Longao stayed in the dragon seal space and began to integrate the innate ability and the firmament-devouring art. In the massacre abyss, the battle between the 5 lords of the abyss had affected the entire city. In just a few dozen days, countless people had died. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that blood flowed like a river and corpses littered the ground. The dragon sect didn't stay idle either. They also joined the battle, but instead of fighting the 5 lords of the abyss head-on, they fought guerrilla warfare. Fatty and Skinny weren't fools. They knew very well that the dragon sect had just been established, so its foundation and strength were very weak. There was no way it could compete with the 5 lords of the abyss. If they chose to fight head-on, they believed that the dragon sect wouldn't even last for 2 hours. One had to admit that Fatty and Skinny were indeed talents. They led the dragon sect to join the battle. Not only did they start the war, but they also expanded their strength. After several dozen days, not only did the dragon sect not suffer any losses, it grew stronger and stronger, more than twice as strong as 10 days ago. When the 5 lords of the abyss went to war, no matter who it was, they didn't take the dragon sect seriously. In the eyes of the 5 lords of the abyss, the dragon sect was like an ant that could be trampled to death at any time. "Heavenly King, If Black Wolf knows that we are dealing with the dragon sect, I'm afraid that Black Wolf will deal with us." The West Heavenly King's face was gloomy. Black Wolf had killed the female Yaksha and Lu Chen and scared him away, making him lose face in the city. He couldn't even raise his head in front of the other 3 Heavenly Kings. He vowed not to give up until he killed Black Wolf. "Fang Hui, how many years have you been with me?" F***ck, this again. Fang Hui knew very well what the West Heavenly King meant and despised him fiercely in his heart. However, for the sake of the West Heavenly King's face, he could only swallow his anger. "Heavenly King, I've been with you for a full 15 years. In that case, I won't say much. Next, you take your men and uproot the dragon sect for me. As for Black Wolf, someone else will deal with him." The West Heavenly King was very afraid of the Black Wolf. Even the 5 Lords of the Abyss didn't dare to confront Black Wolf head-on, let alone him. It was precisely because of this that the West Heavenly King didn't dare to go. He could only send Fang Hui to destroy the dragon sect first. Even if Fang Hui couldn't deal with the dragon sect, it wouldn't be much of a hindrance to him. At most, he would lose a supreme Dao martial artist. Looking at the West Heavenly King who had disappeared, Fang Hui cursed fiercely and muttered to himself, "F***ck, you leave all the bad things to me. There's no good things for me. Just you wait, I won't be so easy to bully." Fang Hui sneered. Black Wolf's strength was there for all to see. With his strength, it could be said that he wouldn't return. Fang Hui was not a fool. It was impossible for him to die in vain, even if he was afraid of the West Heavenly King. A branch of the dragon sect. Longao was very satisfied with the talents of the fat man and the thin man. They were able to double the development of the dragon sect in just 10 days without the slightest loss. This in itself already showed the talents of the two. "Master, Fang Hui requests to see you." The dragon sect, who had just finished asking, was very surprised when he heard the fat man's words. He didn't know why Fang Hui came at this time. After all, the dragon sect and Hong Lingtong were at war. It could be said that it was either you die or I die. It was a bit unusual for Fang Hui to come, but since he was already here, he couldn't not see him. Let him in. Chapter 1139. In a short while. Fang Hui entered the Great Hall and was very respectful, like a mouse that had seen a cat. Under normal circumstances, when a supreme Dao martial artist saw a great emperor martial artist, he would only be high and mighty and respectful. If this phenomenon were to spread out, no one would believe it. "Brother Black Wolf, it's been a long time. How have you been?" He waved his hand. Longao didn't want to talk nonsense, so he said directly, "It hasn't been a long time, Fang Hui. If you have something to say, just say it. If not, leave." Longao felt great to berate a supreme Dao martial artist like this. Even if Fang Hui had 10,000 displeasure and anger in his heart, he could only endure it. "Brother Black Wolf, to tell you the truth, I came to you this time because not long ago, the West Sky King came to me and asked me to bring people to take drastic measures to uproot the dragon sect." "So what?" Longao wasn't worried at all. With the 5 element slaves, he could almost be sure that the 5 Lords of the Abyss wouldn't dare to come without full confidence. In the end, the West Heaven King was still afraid of him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent Fang Hui to take drastic measures. Instead, he would have come in person. He was stunned for a moment. Black Wolf's attitude was a little unexpected, and Fang Hui was a little caught off guard. He had to admit that Fang Hui was an old fox. He calmed down in an instant and continued, "Brother Black Wolf, as the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. The West Heaven King asked me to be cannon fodder, and I'm ready to give up the darkness and join the light. From now on, I'll follow you. I wonder if Brother Black Wolf is willing to take me in." So that was it. Longao wasn't surprised at all, because Fang Hui came for no reason this time. He had already guessed Fang Hui's intention. If it weren't for this, Fang Hui would have had nothing better to do. Longao didn't immediately agree. If Fang Hui could betray the West Heaven King at this time, then he could betray him tomorrow. To be honest, Longao went straight to the point. Fang Hui, if you were me, would you dare to take in someone like you? Fang Hui had already guessed it. He smiled and said, Brother Black Wolf, I've joined the dragon sect. Once we encounter danger, I can charge at any time. However, I believe that Brother Black Wolf won't use me as cannon fodder. Maybe. Fang Hui was stunned by Longao's words. For a moment, Fang Hui didn't know what to say. Fang Hui didn't say anything, but Longao laughed. Longao suddenly laughed, causing Fang Hui to have no idea what was going on. Fang Hui, you're right. Once you join the dragon sect, I won't use you as cannon fodder if there's any danger. Without giving Fang Hui any chance to speak, Longao continued, Fang Hui, welcome to the dragon sect. Thank you, Master. Fang Hui changed his words really quickly. Next, the two chatted for a while about the deployment of the West Heaven King. Then, Fang Hui left the hall. Brother Long, you clearly know that Fang Hui is not a good person. Why did you let him join the dragon sect? Bai Ling couldn't control herself. She always wanted to care about Longao, which made Xiling depressed. However, she knew very well that her sister was stubborn. Once she fell in love with someone, she would never change her mind unless she was dead. Because of this, Xiling had tacitly agreed that Bai Ling liked Longao from the beginning to the end. Bai Ling, Fang Hui joining the dragon sect will be of great help to me. I want to use Fang Hui to deal with the West Heaven King. Longao had already thought about this matter. The grudge between him and the West Heaven King had reached the point where one of them had to die. Under normal circumstances, he couldn't kill the West Heaven King at all. After thinking about it, Fang Hui happened to come to him. Therefore, Longao beat him at his own game and prepared to use Fang Hui to deal with the West Heaven King. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Longao didn't want to cause any trouble for himself. The existence of the West Heaven King was the biggest trouble. Bai Ling was kind, but she was not a fool. Of course, she understood what Longao meant. However, Bai Ling was more or less worried. Sister, you don't have to worry. You know better than me what kind of person he is. If Longao is at a disadvantage, even pigs will climb trees. Damn it. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao almost cursed out loud. Sister. Come back with me. Regardless of Bai Ling's pleading, Xiling took Bai Ling's hand. The two Jianling turned into purple and white light and disappeared from the hall, returning to the god-killing sword. He shrugged helplessly. Regarding Purple Spirit's personality, Longao could be said to be very familiar with it, so he was not surprised at all. In the view of the West Heaven King, even if Fang Hui was given 10,000 guts, Fang Hui would not dare to betray him. Therefore, the West Heaven King was very relieved to leave everything to Fang Hui. However, Fang Hui had already joined the dragon sect at this time. He believed that the West Heaven King would never have thought of this. In order to kill him in one blow, the West Heaven King not only sent Fang Hui, but also sent a total of 10 Supreme Dao martial artists. In the West Heaven King's view, as long as they did not encounter the old man, it would be almost a matter of minutes to kill Black Wolf. They turned against each other. Not only did Fang Hui betray and join the dragon sect, but he also brought 10 other Supreme Dao martial artists to join. Longao did not fully believe Fang Hui. As the saying goes, one must always be vigilant. However, in order to deal with the West Heaven King and test Fang Hui, Longao was ready to take action immediately. Otherwise, if the West Heaven King found that something was wrong, then things would be troublesome. Master, why are you looking for me? In fact, Fang Hui already knew why Black Wolf was looking for him this time, but he pretended not to know. It could be said that Fang Hui and Longao each had their own ulterior motives. Fang Hui, let's be frank. You joined the dragon sect this time. Let's not talk about the fact that the dragon sect doesn't believe you, so in order to gain everyone's trust, you have to do something. Please enlighten me, Master. It's very simple. From now on, we will let the fat man and the thin man attack the West Heaven King's territory. When the time comes, you will help secretly. As for the West Heaven King, I need your help. Master, You want to kill the West Heaven King. Seeing Black Wolf nodding, Fang Hui did not know what to think. Fang Hui had already guessed that there must be something wrong with the old man beside Black Wolf. Otherwise, if the old man was really powerful, why didn't he directly kill the 5 Abyss Lords and dominate the Massacre Abyss? In this way, it was simply a superfluous move. Fang Hui didn't ask, because he knew very well that he wouldn't act rashly before he figured things out. Otherwise, if the old man beside Hei Lang really had the strength to kill the 5 Lords of the Abyss, it would be much more difficult to turn back if he chose the wrong side. Next, Fatty and the Thin Man were in the open, while the West Heaven King was in the dark. They attacked the West Heaven King's forces together. In just 3 days, most of the West Heaven King's territory had been lost, making him wonder why the dragon sect was so powerful. Chapter 1140. Longao didn't care about anything for the time being and focused on cultivating. According to Xiling, his sword chi was of the overbearing type while the sword chi origin was of the feminine type. That was exactly the case. It wasn't an easy task for him to refine the sword chi origin. Xiling, have you thought of a way? Xiling nodded and said, Longao, I've already considered this. It's very difficult to refine 2 different types of sword chi. Longao had already guessed this. Longao, I've thought of a way. You refine it by force and my sister and I will help you. However, even if you refine the sword chi origin, you won't have the same power as before. Longao knew that he could only do this since things had already progressed to this stage. Longao nodded and agreed. In the following days, Xiling and Bai Ling helped Longao and used the power of their sword chi to refine the sword chi origin by force. 3 days later, Longao roared and a powerful massacre territory exploded from his body. It instantly shrouded the entire room. The 10 Great Emperor realms corresponded to 10 different territories. Once one's cultivation broke through to the titled Great Emperor realm, the territory would be condensed. The massacre territory in Longao's body had already condensed to the peak. With the help of Xiling and Bai Ling, Longao only used 3 days to successfully break through to the peak of the gold rank Great Emperor realm and reach the titled Great Emperor realm. If Longao refined the sword chi origin normally, he could easily reach the demigod realm, let alone break through to the titled Great Emperor realm. However, Longao's sword chi was too overbearing and he couldn't refine the sword chi origin normally. He could only rely on Bai Ling and Jianling's help. In this way, the effect was greatly reduced. Even if he broke through to the titled Great Emperor realm, he could barely do it. He opened his eyes. Feeling the powerful energy in his body, Longao was pleasantly surprised and helpless at the same time. He had successfully broken through to the titled Great Emperor realm in 3 days. Such a cultivation speed was already very impressive. Unfortunately, he did not use the sword chi origin to break through to the demigod realm and only reached the peak of the titled Great Emperor realm. He was only 1 step away, just 1 step away. Longao, there's no need for that. It's already very good that you're able to do this. I understand. I will break through to the demigod realm. The biggest difference between the Great Emperor realm and the demigod realm was the transformation of the soul into the godly soul. The energy in the body would also slowly transform into divine power. The transformation of the soul was incomparably difficult. Xiling looked deeply at Longao, who was standing in front of her. Things had already turned out this way. Even if it was her, there was nothing she could do. Brother Long, don't be disappointed. Longao smiled and said gently, Bai Ling, I'm not disappointed. I'm already very satisfied to be able to break through to the titled Great Emperor realm from the gold grade Great Emperor realm in just 3 days. Longao's words were very honest. The path of cultivation itself was a heaven-defying path. One had to cultivate step by step. To an outsider, breaking through to the next level in 3 days was absolutely impossible. The next step for the titled Great Emperor realm was to cultivate with all his might and strive to break through to the demigod realm as soon as possible. Xiling and Bai Ling had already helped Longao, but that was all they could do. The next step was still up to Longao himself. Even the two of them were powerless. Hence, the two of them returned to the god-punishing sword. As soon as the two Genling disappeared, Long Fu had already called out to Longao. He was very surprised. Longao did not know why Long Fu was looking for him at this time. In the dragon seal space. Long Fu, what's the matter? Long Fu nodded and said straightforwardly, "Congratulations, Master, for successfully breaking through to the titled Great Emperor realm. Master, the next thing is to think of a way to reach the demigod realm as soon as possible." Long Fu, you have a way? Longao was not a fool. He knew Long Fu's character very well. If he did not have full confidence, he believed that Long Fu would not say this. As expected. Master, I believe you already know that in order to break through to the demigod realm from the Great Emperor realm, the first thing you have to do is to transform your soul into a demigod soul. Nodding his head. Longao already knew about this. A Great Emperor realm martial artist could only officially break through to the demigod realm when their soul transformed into a demigod soul. As for advancing to the Supreme Tao martial artist, only when their soul completely transformed into a godly soul and possessed true divine power could they be considered to have truly broken through to the Supreme Tao realm. Longao did not say anything because he knew that Long Fu had already said this. It seemed like Long Fu definitely had a way to help him. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited. Longao never thought that his cultivation would break through so quickly. In just a few months, he had already broken through to the titled Great Emperor realm. Longao was very satisfied with such a cultivation speed. Very satisfied, very satisfied. However, to the entire Tianwu continent and the Massacre Abyss, a titled Great Emperor realm martial artist was nothing. Any random demigod or Supreme Tao martial artist would be able to stop him from advancing. Master, I have already thought about this matter. From now on, I will continuously refine souls to strengthen your soul. Once it has strengthened to a certain extent, with the help of the Divine Island's martial artist souls, we can break through to the demigod realm in one go. With regards to Long Fu's method, Longao instantly understood. With regards to the soul, it was both difficult and simple. With his current strength, he could kill titled Great Emperors and any cultivators below the titled Great Emperor realm. At that time, as long as he continuously sent his soul into the dragon seal space, with Long Fu's strength, he believed that the soul power would continuously flow into his body. Under normal circumstances, to break through from the titled Great Emperor realm to the demigod realm was not something that could be done overnight. No one knew when they would be able to break through this realm and take the last step. However, Longao had full confidence. With Long Fu's help, as long as he worked hard, he believed that it would not be difficult to break through from the titled Great Emperor realm to the demigod realm. Long Fu, I know what to do next. Master, wait. I still have something to tell you. This time, Longao was a little surprised, but he still stopped. Long Fu, what's the matter? Master, I have already done what you told me before. If you want to kill the Western Sky King, there is only one way, and that is to borrow the power of the blood pool. Blood pool? After listening to Long Fu's method, Longao was very surprised. This was because he knew very well what the blood pool meant. Once he used the blood pool, if he was corroded by the blood pool, then he would become a puppet of the blood pool. Not only that, but the blood pool might also break the seal and leave the dragon seal space. If that was the case, the consequences would be unimaginable. Long Fu was not a reckless person. Why would it be like this? Chapter 1141. Long Fu, can I use the blood pool? Long Fu knew very well what his master was thinking. Master, don't worry. The dragon seal space has swallowed hundreds of souls before, and the seal has become much stronger. So, it's not a problem to use some of the power of the blood pool. It can kill supreme divine path martial artists. Long Fu nodded. What about nirvana martial artists? Longao had decided that as long as the blood pool could kill nirvana martial artists, he would not hesitate to kill the 5 Lords of the Abyss directly. When the 5 Lords of the Abyss fell, he would be the real master of the Massacre Abyss. Master, I can only mobilize a trace of the power of the blood pool to kill supreme divine path martial artists, and I can only use it once in a short period of time. So that was it. Longao didn't feel the slightest bit unwilling. Being able to deal with the Western Heavenly King was already a great help. Longao didn't continue to stay in the Dragon Seal space. This time, he returned with a full load. He was still worried about how to deal with the Western Heavenly King. In any case, the Western Heavenly King's strength was there for all to see. Master, the Western Heavenly King has begun to counterattack us. As soon as Longao returned to the lobby, the fat man and the thin man couldn't wait to report. Tell me about the situation. Longao was a little surprised. He didn't know why the Western Heavenly King wanted to counterattack out of nowhere. The fat man didn't dare to hide anything and roughly recounted what had happened in the past 3 days. Since there's no loss, then do what you should do. Leave the Western Heavenly King to me. The fat man and the thin man were very curious. They didn't know how the master wanted to deal with the Western Heavenly King. In fact, there was a question in their hearts that they couldn't figure out. Since the master could scare off the Western Heavenly King and the 5 Lords of the Abyss, why didn't the master directly kill the 5 Lords of the Abyss and the Western Heavenly King and dominate the entire massacre abyss? Even if they had questions in their hearts, they still didn't dare to ask casually. In 3 days, Fang Hui's betrayal hadn't been leaked. In other words, until now, the Western Heavenly King still didn't know that Fang Hui had betrayed him and joined the Dragon Sect. Longao found Fang Hui and went straight to the point. Fang Hui, go find the Western Heavenly King now. I don't care what you do, you have to bring the Western Heavenly King here. Fang Hui was shocked. He didn't know why Black Wolf was acting like this. Fang Hui didn't ask any more questions. He knew very well what he should ask and what he shouldn't ask after joining the Dragon Sect. He couldn't ask about this matter. Looking at Fang Hui's departing figure, Longao's lips slowly curled into a cold smile. In the residence of the West Heavenly King. In the lobby. Fang Hui, how did it go? Fang Hui looked very calm, but he said somewhat impatiently, Heavenly King, after days of tracking and observation, I'm sure that the old man beside Black Wolf is not here. He seems to have gone to restrain the 5 Lords of the Abyss. Really? Fang Hui nodded and said affirmatively, Heavenly King, what I said is true. However, the divine artifact in Black Wolf's hands is too powerful. I dare not act rashly. Once Black Wolf knows that we have locked onto him, it will be a bit too difficult to deal with him. How could the West Heaven King not know what Fang Hui was talking about? The Western Heavenly King didn't take Black Wolf's strength seriously from beginning to end. The only person he was afraid of was the mysterious old man beside Black Wolf. Not to mention him, even the 5 Lords of the Abyss were no match for the mysterious old man. If it weren't for the mysterious old man, how could Black Wolf be so rampant in the Abyss? If others knew that the mysterious old man wasn't by Black Wolf's side, the 5 Lords of the Abyss wouldn't let Black Wolf off easily, let alone the Western Heavenly King. In the end, the Western Heavenly King decided to deal with Black Wolf himself. The reason was very simple. Once he killed Black Wolf, he could claim credit from the Lord of the Abyss and establish his position as the head of the 4 Heavenly Kings. Although the 4 Heavenly Kings, the Eastern Heavenly King, the Western Heavenly King, the Southern Heavenly King and the Northern Heavenly King were all subordinates of the Lord of the Abyss, Hong Lingtong, they had always been fighting openly and secretly to be the head of the 4 Heavenly Kings. Since the incident with Black Wolf, the Western Heavenly King's status in front of Hong Lingtong had plummeted. It was precisely because of this that the Western Heavenly King wanted to perform well. Fang Hui, where is Black Wolf? From beginning to end, the Western Heavenly King never thought that Fang Hui would dare to betray him. If the Western Heavenly King knew that Fang Hui had joined the Dragon Sect, what would he think? Heavenly King, come with me. He nodded. Without the slightest doubt, the Western Heavenly King followed Fang Hui and rushed to the location set by Longao at the fastest speed. In order to claim credit, the Western Heavenly King didn't even tell Hong Lingtong the news. The mysterious old man wasn't there. In the Western Heavenly King's opinion, it was almost a matter of minutes if he wanted to kill Black Wolf. He had personally sensed Black Wolf's strength. He was just a gold-grade great sovereign. In front of him, Black Wolf was just a small ant. Outside the city, the surrounding wilderness was filled with rocks and weeds. At first glance, it was gloomy and gave people a tingling feeling. Fang Hui, are you mistaken? Why would Black Wolf appear here? Not to mention the Western Heavenly King, even Fang Hui was cursing fiercely in his heart. Of all places, he had to choose such a remote place. This was because the Western Heavenly King trusted him very much. If it was someone else, they would have already begun to suspect. In the end, it wasn't that the Western Heavenly King trusted Fang Hui, but it never occurred to him that Fang Hui would dare to betray him. No matter who it was, they would have made the same choice. As the Abyss Lord, a great sovereign who had just stepped into the massacre abyss, who would choose Black Wolf unless there was something wrong with his brain? Heavenly King, I have been following Black Wolf for the past few days. I noticed that he has left the city. I don't know what he came here for. As for the mysterious old man, he left 3 days ago. 3 days. Before Fang Hui could finish his words, a figure suddenly appeared not far in front of them. It was none other than the Black Wolf they were looking for. He was also the so-called Longao. He smiled coldly and just stood there quietly, making people feel a chill run down their spines. Black Wolf, you really have the guts to come out. I have to admire your courage. Western Heavenly King, I also have to admire your courage. You were scared away before, but you still dare to come back. If I were you, I would buy 2 kilograms of tofu and go home. Hearing this, the Western Heavenly King's face turned gloomy to the extreme. It was as ugly as it could be because the previous incident was a great humiliation to him. Looking at the calm Black Wolf, the Western Heavenly King didn't know why, but his heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Black Wolf is fearless and prepared? Before the Western Heavenly King could speak, Longao suddenly said, Fang Hui, thank you. Chapter 1142. The West Heaven King was not a fool. Black Wolf's words had already given him a rough idea. Now that things had come to this point, Fang Hui was not too worried. Black Wolf had already said that he was going to deal with the West Heaven King now. With Black Wolf's previous performance, the West Heaven King would definitely die. In that case, why should he be afraid of the West Heaven King? In a flash, Fang Hui was already far away from the West Heaven King. He said with a smile, Heaven King, I'm sorry, but I've already joined the Dragon Sect. Surprise and anger. From beginning to end, the West Heaven King never thought that Fang Hui would betray him and even join the Dragon Sect. Fang Hui's betrayal and Black Wolf's calmness seemed to be premeditated. Fang Hui. After saying a name, the West Heaven King did not continue. The West Heaven King was not afraid of Fang Hui, but he was very afraid of Black Wolf. Strictly speaking, the West Heaven King was only afraid of one person, and that was the mysterious old man beside Black Wolf, the so-called 5-element slave. Black Wolf, what do you want? Helplessly spreading out his hands, Longao looked at Fang Hui not far away and said helplessly, West Heaven King, in my life, what I hate the most are traitors. Hearing this, Fang Hui was taken aback. Master. Waving his hand, Longao did not give Fang Hui any chance to speak and said, West Heaven King, I won't ask too much about the grievances between you and Fang Hui. Please do as you please. As if thinking of something, Longao suddenly understood and said, West Heaven King, we'll talk about the grievances between you and me later. After hearing Black Wolf's words, Fang Hui was completely stunned. Fang Hui had been tricked for no reason. He had thought that everything was under his control. After all, the Lord of the Abyss didn't know about it, and he would benefit from it either way. He never thought that he would be tricked by Hei Lang. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid of the West Heaven King. In any case, the strength and identity of the West Heaven King were there. The West Heaven King turned to look at Fang Hui and said coldly, Traitor, Fang Hui, I treated you well, but you betrayed me. Black Wolf, what do you mean by this? Ignoring the West Heaven King, Fang Hui couldn't wait to kill Black Wolf directly. However, no matter how furious Fang Hui was, he did not dare to act recklessly. The mysterious elder's strength was clear for all to see. Even the 5 Abyss Lords would not dare to act, let alone him. Fang Hui, I've already said that I despise traitors the most. Since the conversation had already reached this point, Fang Hui could only admit defeat. Heavenly King. Fang Hui, since you've been with me for so many years, kill yourself. Suicide. Hearing the West Heaven King's words, Fang Hui glared fiercely at Black Wolf in front of him. He was filled with endless anger, but in the end, he suppressed it. Either way, he would die, but Fang Hui did not dare to make a move, whether it was to deal with Black Wolf or the West Heaven King. Turning around, Fang Hui was ready to leave at the fastest speed, but at this moment, the West Heaven King's figure suddenly disappeared. It was too fast, as if he had teleported. The difference in strength between the West Heaven King and Fang Hui was too great. One was a supreme Dao warrior, and the other was a supreme Dao warrior. The two were not on the same level at all, and their speed was even more incomparable. Fang Hui, do you want to leave? Kneeling on the ground, Fang Hui's body was trembling slightly, and his voice was even trembling as he said, Heavenly King, I just want to protect myself. If there is a 1 in a million chance, I dare not betray you. I hope you can spare me this time. I can guarantee that from now on, I will follow you wholeheartedly. You traitor. Without giving Fang Hui any chance to continue speaking, the West Heaven King's palm slammed on the top of Fang Hui's head. With this palm, Fang Hui's body also fell down. The next second, Longao's body suddenly appeared beside Fang Hui, startling the West Heaven King. He didn't know what Black Wolf wanted to do. With a big stride, his body had already shot out several meters, and he looked at the Black Wolf with fear. Smiling, Longao's face was full of contempt and contempt. This was the so-called Heavenly King, this was the so-called Supreme Dao Warrior. Longao didn't let go of Fang Hui's divine soul, especially at this time. According to Long Fu, his current cultivation had broken through the titled Great Emperor realm. If he wanted to continue to reach the so-called Supreme Dao realm, the fastest way was to constantly strengthen his soul and transform it into a divine soul. The fastest way to transform the divine soul was to constantly devour the power of the soul. Fang Hui was a Supreme Dao warrior. Needless to say, the power of his divine soul was very strong. If he was sent into the Dragon Seal space, Long Fu would refine it, which would be of great help to strengthen his soul. Fang Hui had been obliterated by the West Heaven King, and his divine soul had no power to resist. Long Ao smoothly sent Fang Hui's divine soul into the Dragon Seal space. Killing with a borrowed knife. The purpose of Long Ao's deployment this time was to borrow the power of the West Heaven King to kill Fang Hui. It could be said that Long Ao's deployment this time was extremely successful. The next thing was to deal with the West Heaven King, and then it would be a great success. Black Wolf, what do you want? Tell me. He snorted coldly. West Heaven King, Fang Hui is dead. As I just said, it's time to settle the grudge between you and me. You. The West Heaven King didn't take Black Wolf seriously. The only thing he was afraid of was the mysterious old man. With Fang Hui's betrayal, the West Heaven King wasn't sure whether the mysterious old man beside Black Wolf was here or not. If he wasn't here, then killing Black Wolf was almost a matter of minutes. If he was here, he would be in big trouble. In any case, the mysterious old man's strength was there. Not to mention him, even if the 5 Abyss Lords were here, they might not dare to make a move. How could Long Ao not know what the West Heaven King was thinking? West Heaven King, don't worry, my servant is not here. He was overjoyed. Fang Hui said so, and so did Black Wolf. Was the mysterious old man really not here? If that was the case, the West Heaven King's fear disappeared in an instant. He exuded a powerful aura, directly suppressing Long Ao. West Heaven King, even if my servant is not here, with my strength, I can kill you in a matter of minutes. Do you believe it? Just by you? The West Heaven King certainly didn't believe it. The other party was just a great Emperor realm martial artist who hadn't even broken through to the demigod realm. Such a person actually wanted to kill him shamelessly. No matter whether others believed it or not, he would never believe it. Longao didn't talk nonsense. Actions spoke louder than words. Before he arrived, the dragon seal space in his dantian suddenly erupted with a terrifying bloody force, directly suppressing him. Sensing this bloody force, the West Heaven King's face changed instantly. Chapter 1143. The power of the blood pool instantly swallowed the West Heaven King. According to Long Fu, with the current power of the dragon seal space, the power of the blood pool could only be used once in a short period of time. In front of the blood pool, the West Heaven King didn't even have a chance to resist. Fang Hui and the West Heaven King both died, and Longao was more or less relieved. This time, there was no backlash from using the blood pool. Everything was arranged by Long Fu. Fang Hui and the West Heaven King both became Longao's pawns. From the beginning to the end, neither of them expected this result. Otherwise, the two would definitely not be like this. No one in the entire massacre abyss knew about the death of Fang Hui and the West Heaven King. Longao also acted as if nothing had happened, still going in and out. As for the 10 supreme Dao martial artists brought by Fang Hui, Longao didn't want any of them. Longao wouldn't stay in the dragon sect because of this unstable factor. As soon as Longao stepped into the dragon sect, he welcomed one of the 5 abyss lords, Hong Lingtong of the East Abyss. Sneering in his heart, how could Longao not guess the purpose of Hong Lingtong's visit this time? Brother Black Wolf, I'm relieved to see that you're fine. Hong Lingtong, what's the matter? Pretentious, shameless, and despicable. I just got the news that my subordinate, the West Heaven King, wants to deal with you. That reckless thing, it's all my fault for not teaching him well. I hope you can return him to me. After I go back, I will teach him well. What does Hong Lingtong mean? Does Hong Lingtong already know that I killed the West Heaven King and Fang Hui? That's unlikely. My deployment this time can be said to be foolproof. No one knows. Under normal circumstances, Hong Lingtong shouldn't know. Hong Lingtong, I don't understand what you're saying at all. Whether Hong Lingtong knows or not, Longao has made up his mind that he won't admit it. Black Wolf, to be honest, someone saw the West Heaven King and Fang Hui coming to your place before, and the soul in my hand has shattered, which means that the West Heaven King has fallen. At this point, Hong Lingtong didn't continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. In the end, Hong Lingtong believed that it was Black Wolf who killed the West Heaven King. If it was an ordinary person, Hong Lingtong would have already made his move. Why would he waste time here? However, with the previous example, Hong Lingtong was very afraid of Black Wolf. Strictly speaking, he was very afraid of the mysterious old man beside Black Wolf. I don't know. He blew himself up. Longao was almost certain that the other party did not know that he was the one who killed Hong Lingtong and Fang Hui. Otherwise, Hong Lingtong would not have acted in such a manner. Black Wolf, let's be frank. I already know about the grudge between you and the West Heaven King. Even if you kill him, I won't blame you. However, the West Heaven King died for no reason. If I don't find out the truth, how can I face the others? What does that have to do with me? At this moment, Longao's performance was very domineering. The more powerful Longao was, the less confident Hong Lingtong was, and the more he didn't dare to act recklessly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Black Wolf. Longao waved his hand, not giving Hong Lingtong a chance to continue. He said impatiently, I've just said that the death of the West Heaven King has nothing to do with me. I won't see you out. Longao directly ordered him to leave. Things had already come to this point. Whether Hong Lingtong already knew it or not, Longao had already decided that he would not admit to this matter. At worst, he would fight. With the 5-element slave in charge, let alone Hong Lingtong, even if all 5 lords of the abyss gathered together, he would not have the slightest worry. Hong Lingtong's face was extremely gloomy, but in the end, he still did not dare to make a move. He could only stand up and leave. My lord, what should we do now? Outside the dragon sect. The East Heaven King, South Heaven King, and North Heaven King gathered outside the dragon sect with many experts. Although there was no conclusive evidence to prove that the West Heaven King was killed by Black Wolf, the four of them were almost certain that the West Heaven King was killed by Black Wolf. If they didn't do something practical, where would their dignity go? Once this matter spread out, they would lose a lot of face. Hong Lingtong's face was very ugly. If it were anyone else, of course, he would not dawdle. However, Black Wolf's situation was a little different. The mysterious old man beside him was extremely powerful. Back then, the five of them joined forces to attack the old man, but they still could not defeat him. This in itself already showed the old man's powerful strength. Black Wolf, how dare you play dirty with me? Hong Lingtong already knew what had happened. Previously, Black Wolf had asked him to form an alliance, but he did not do so. It seemed that Black Wolf wanted to kill the West Heaven King to make an example of him. The three heavenly kings did not dare to say anything and stood respectfully on the side. How could the three of them not know about the Lord's misgivings? Black Wolf was not powerful, but the mysterious old man was. Everything had a what if. If they failed miserably, wouldn't they go for wool and come home shorn? Let's endure this for now. How's the battle going? My lord, the other three of the four lords of the abyss are the same as us. They did not use their full strength. Only Yang Ling's attack was very fierce, as if he wanted to kill us. He nodded. Hong Lingtong had almost guessed what had happened from Yang Ling's words. If there was no accident, Black Wolf had asked him to form an alliance and he had failed to do so, then Black Wolf must have asked Yang Ling to join forces with him to deal with the four of them. Otherwise, Yang Ling would not be so stupid as to attack the four of them for no reason. But it should be noted that the strength and foundation of the five lords of the abyss were almost the same. If Yang Ling had the confidence to deal with the four of them, why would he wait until now? After so many years, there would be plenty of opportunities to do so. The alliance between Yang Ling and Black Wolf was no small matter. Hong Lingtong was almost certain of one thing, that was, Yang Ling must have benefited, and this benefit was unparalleled. Otherwise, with Yang Ling's character, he would not have worked so hard. Hong Lingtong knew very well that if the four of them really went to war with Yang Ling and fought to the death, the one who would benefit the most wouldn't be Yang Ling or the four of them. The only one who would benefit would be Black Wolf. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Black Wolf played a good trick. If they were to go to war, then they would really be fooled. Pass the word down. From now on, no matter how Yang Ling starts the battle, we will only defend and not attack. We only need to defend our important territory. Hearing his words, the three heavenly kings were shocked. They did not know what his lord meant, but since his lord had already decided, they could not say anything. The Eastern Sky King, Southern Sky King, and North Sky King all nodded. If they only defended and did not attack, then no matter how powerful Yang Ling was, he would not be able to take advantage of their weakness. Before the four of them could leave, with a whoosh, a terrifying sword chi had already shot toward them. The four of them were shocked. They did not know where the sword chi came from. Could it have fallen from the sky? Chapter 1144. Just who had launched this sneak attack? However, Hong Lingtong was one of the five lords of the abyss. Even the other four lords of the abyss would not dare to act recklessly, let alone ordinary people. My lord, could it be Black Wolf? Black Wolf. At this time, who else could it be but Black Wolf? Hong Lingtong wasn't an idiot. He'd already guessed who had attacked them, and his expression was gloomy to the extreme, as unsightly as it could be. From start to finish, Hong Lingtong had never imagined that Black Wolf would take the initiative to attack the Dragon Sect's forbidden area. In the future, no matter who it is, as long as they step into it, they will be killed without mercy. At this moment, Longao's voice suddenly resounded. Everyone who heard the voice, including Hong Lingtong, had an ugly expression on their faces. My lord, he waved his hand. Let's go. Hong Lingtong was extremely wary of the mysterious elder. The more Longao acted like this, the more he was afraid. The three heavenly kings shrugged helplessly and followed Hong Lingtong. In just a short while, they had vanished without a trace. The dragon sect's branch. Within the palace. Longao sneered. He had attacked Hong Lingtong this time, but Hong Lingtong hadn't counterattacked. That in itself showed that Hong Lingtong was very wary of him. Strictly speaking, he was wary of the mysterious elder beside him. The martial heaven continent. In the sky above the dragon race, at the peak of the clouds. The god diviner looked at the heavenly Daos with an ugly expression. He helplessly said, Long Tien and the primordial divine dragon have already died. This matter ends here. Heavenly Daos, if you insist on acting alone, Brother Batian and I will have no choice but to kill you. If an ordinary person had said such words, the heavenly Daos would have snorted disdainfully. However, the person who had said such words was the god diviner. Whether it was in terms of strength or the Tao of divination, he was the #1 figure on the martial heaven continent. Heavenly Daos, the god diviner is correct. So what if you destroy the dragon race? It won't benefit the martial heaven continent at all. The heavenly Daos didn't have any confidence in defeating Long Batian and the god diviner. Even if Master God Diviner fought him alone, he wouldn't be a match for him, let alone the two of them. The heavenly Dao's expression was also very gloomy. Although Long Tien and the primordial divine dragon had fallen, no one could say for sure when the man and dragon would be reborn. In the end, the heavenly Dao was very afraid of the man and dragon, afraid that the man and dragon would step onto the peak of martial arts. According to the strength of the heavenly Dao, destroying the Long family and the dragon clan was almost a matter of minutes. However, with Master God Diviner and Long Batian interfering, things were going to get a lot more complicated. He snorted coldly. Master God Diviner, Long Batian, Yang Qi said, the three of us are well aware of the grudge between me and Long Batian. I've been waiting for years, and I can't wait any longer. The heavenly Dao was almost certain that neither Long Tien nor the primordial divine dragon had truly vanished. He waved his hand. Of course, Master God Diviner wouldn't let the heavenly Dao destroy the dragon race. Heavenly Dao, I've already said this. If the dragon race and the Long family are destroyed, you will be buried with them. Long Batian had a fiery temper, and seeing that the heavenly Dao wasn't willing to back down, he finally exploded. Heavenly Dao, who do you think you are? If it weren't for Master God Diviner, would you have reached this step? Not giving the heavenly Dao a chance to speak, Long Batian continued cursing, you really don't want face. Heavenly Dao, I'm not as easy to talk to as Master God Diviner. Remember, if you want to live well, you'd best know your place. It went without saying that Long Batian was incomparably domineering. No matter what, the heavenly Dao was the representative of the martial heaven continent. Long Batian was not giving the heavenly Dao any face. The heavenly Dao's expression darkened, but he didn't dare to say anything. After breaking through, he had thought that he would be able to defeat Master God Diviner and Long Batian. Unfortunately, he wasn't a match for Master God Diviner, let alone the two of them. Even the heavenly Dao was afraid of death. I'll remember. The heavenly Dao turned and left. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished without a trace. Master God Diviner, it seems the heavenly Dao won't let off the Long family and the dragon race. What should we do? My injuries have already reached the end. If Longao doesn't advance as expected, you won't be able to stop the heavenly Dao on your own. Although Long Batian felt a bit uncomfortable, he knew that Master God Diviner was telling the truth. If it had been one-on-one, he wouldn't have been a match for the heavenly Dao. If it hadn't been for Long Batian and Master God Diviner, the Long family and the dragon race would have been destroyed by the heavenly Dao. Master God Diviner and Long Batian separated. After all, the two of them couldn't be together all the time. As soon as Master God Diviner left, and before Dragon Batian could leave, the Heaven Dao appeared. Long Batian wasn't the slightest bit surprised. His expression was ugly. In the martial heaven continent, there were 3 peak experts on the martial path. He counted as one, while Master God Diviner and the heavenly Dao were the other 2. Of the 3 of them, Master God Diviner was the strongest, followed by the heavenly Dao, and then him. Long Batian, we've always minded our own business. But you've always prevented me from destroying the dragon race and the Long family, as well as from changing the continent's structure. Are you trying to oppose me? Now that things had reached this point, the Heavenly Tao was prepared to become hostile with Long Batian. The Heavenly Tao was completely confident that even if he wasn't as strong as Master God Diviner and didn't dare to provoke them, it wouldn't be difficult for the two of them to kill him. Heavenly Tao, I trust you know the situation of the Martial Heaven continent better than I do. Once the continent's structure changes, the Martial Heaven continent will be shaken. To be safe, Long Batian used his spiritual sense to send him a message. However, he didn't react in the slightest. It was like the life and death of the Martial Heaven continent had nothing to do with him. Seeing the Heavenly Tao's indifference, Long Batian was depressed to the extreme. He icily said, Heavenly Tao, if you want to harm the Martial Heaven continent, neither I nor the Master God Diviner will agree. It's best if you don't have any ideas about the Long family or the dragon race. Otherwise, the Master God Diviner and I will join hands to kill you. Not giving the Heavenly Tao a chance to speak, Long Batian continued, Heavenly Tao, don't think that just because your cultivation base has advanced, you can dominate the Martial Heaven continent. If the Master God Diviner and I want to join hands to deal with you, we can do it in a matter of minutes. Do you believe me? Yes. The Heavenly Tao naturally knew what Long Batian was saying. However, if he really gave up, let alone Long Batian and the primordial divine dragon, just the problem of face would be a huge problem. Long Batian, I'm not a match for the Master God Diviner, but I don't place you in my eyes. How about we have a battle? If I win, you're not allowed to interfere in the future. If I lose, I won't do anything to the Long family or the dragon race. Author's note, the plot is a bit stuck. It took me 6 hours to write a chapter. I don't dare to continue. Tonight, I'll properly settle down. Don't curse me. Little 9 is doing this for the sake of the book. Chapter 1145. Long Batian knew himself well. With his strength, he was no match for Tian Dao. Why fight when he knew he was no match for him? He chose to give up. Tian Dao, a battle between you and me is inevitable, but not now. Like I said, if you dare to disturb the balance of the continent, Clairvoyant and I will join forces to kill you. It's up to you whether to believe it or not. With that, Long Batian did not stay and turned to leave. From beginning to end, Tian Dao did not make a move, but his face was extremely gloomy. Tian Dao knew very well that if he dared to kill Long Batian, Clairvoyant would dare to kill him. Without full confidence in defeating Clairvoyant, Tian Dao would not act rashly. Clairvoyant, Long Batian, one day, I will make you beg for death. In the Massacre Abyss. Among the 5 Lords of the Abyss, Hong Lingtong took the initiative to withdraw, but Yang Ling increased his attacks and was relentless, as if he had a backer. However, the strength and foundation of the 5 Lords of the Abyss were similar. With Yang Ling's strength alone, it was impossible for him to fight 4, or even 3. Hong Lingtong withdrew. The remaining 3 Lords of the Abyss, Luo Qingfeng of the west, Guo Li of the north, and Yi Chen of the middle, retreated in order to advance. Without knowing what Yang Ling wanted to do, the 3 Lords of the Abyss did not use their full strength. In the Massacre Abyss, the wind blew and the clouds moved. The 5 Lords of the Abyss controlled the lifeline of the entire Massacre Abyss. The 5 Lords of the Abyss fought, causing the entire Massacre Abyss to be filled with rivers of blood and corpses. Black Wolf became an absolute celebrity in the Massacre Abyss. One person, a person who was only a great emperor martial artist, could stir up the entire Massacre Abyss. Many people admired Black Wolf for this alone. Dragon Sect Branch. In the lobby. In the simple lobby, Longao sat alone in the lobby. As the battle in the Massacre Abyss continued to escalate, things became more and more difficult. Yang Ling kept his word and kept increasing his attacks, forcing the other 3 Lords of the Abyss to retreat. In just half a month, Dragon Sect Branch not only participated in the battle, but also did not suffer any losses in the battle. Instead, it was advancing step by step and expanding its forces. Wait. Longao was very clear in his heart that the only thing he could do now was to wait. He hoped that the other three Lords of the Abyss would fight Yang Ling to the death and involve Hong Ling Tong. At that time, he would find a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to strike. Longao took out the wordless heavenly book. Looking at the tattered book in his hand, Longao was very puzzled. From the beginning to the end, he had no idea who the young man in the wordless heavenly book was. It was exactly the same as him. What was going on? Let's try again. Longao's soul re-entered the wordless heavenly book. He was suspicious of the person who looked exactly like him. Longao was also depressed about one thing. Until now, he had not sensed any martial skills or anything else from the wordless heavenly book. In the mysterious space of the wordless heavenly book. "Senior, I want to see you." After trying many times, Longao wanted to see the young man who looked exactly like him again, but he helplessly found that no matter what he did, he could never see this person again. The result was the same. There was still no aura fluctuation. With a deep sigh, Longao shrugged helplessly. He had decided that this time, no matter what method he used, he had to see this mysterious person who looked exactly like him. "Senior, even if you don't want to see me, you have to tell me what I should do to find the secret of the wordless heavenly book. If this continues, what's the point of guarding the treasure?" There was still no aura fluctuation. Longao snorted and said, "In that case, it's useless for me to keep the wordless heavenly book. I'll just throw it away." "Useless thing." An angry voice sounded, and the young man who looked exactly like Longao suddenly appeared. His cold face was full of anger. Looking at himself in front of him, Longao was shocked and took 3 steps back. Because of the powerful aura emanating from the young man just now, he had a clear feeling that if he attacked, he would not even have a chance to fight back. "Are you scared?" The young man's face was full of anger, contempt, and even contempt. "I'm not scared. I'm just curious why you look exactly like me." Hearing this, the young man smiled. "Do you really want to know?" "Nonsense." Longao despised the young man in front of him. If he did not know, why would he go through so much trouble to enter the space of the wordless heavenly book again and again, trying to find a way to see this young man who looked exactly like him? Longao nodded but did not say anything. "Longao, since you want to know, I'll tell you now. I'm your 100th reincarnation. I've waited for 100 lifetimes and finally, I'm qualified to be reincarnated." Reincarnation? 100 lifetimes? According to this calculation, doesn't it mean that I'm the 100th reincarnation of this person in front of me? Longao stared blankly at the person in front of him because he did not believe this at all. 100th reincarnation? I'm actually a reincarnator? Moreover, my 100th reincarnation is here. Let alone me, even others would not believe this. "You mean, you're my 100th reincarnation?" "That's right, Longao. Back then, I was plotted against and my soul entered the path of reincarnation. Every time I reincarnated, I would be discovered by my warrior. I've reincarnated for 99 times and I've never succeeded. However, Longao, you must be careful. If you're discovered by my warrior, you'll definitely die." "Wait." Waving his hand, Longao was still a little dazed. He said bluntly, "Senior, I'll get straight to the point. Since I'm your 100th reincarnation and you're my original body, when I grow up, will you devour me?" Longao was very worried about this question. Although the young man in front of him was only a remnant soul, he could devour him in a matter of minutes. "Ha ha ha, Longao, I understand what you mean. I've already fallen. When the time is up, I'll completely disappear. Later, I'll transfer all my memories to you. However, you have to promise me one thing. No matter what happens, you have to avenge me." After hearing this, Longao did not relax at all. Because until now, he did not know whether what the young man said was true or false. Taking a step back, he did not even know who the young man was and whether he was his 100th reincarnation. Seeing that Longao did not speak, the young man sighed deeply. "P.S. Today, I've been working on the plot outline. When Little Nine writes a book, he not only has to be responsible for himself, but also for everyone. If little 9 writes to cheat money, then writing 20 chapters a day is a small problem. Again, little 9 will try his best to write more every day. I hope my brothers and sisters can understand. Chapter 1146. Longao, you don't believe what I said, do you? Could he believe it? This was a little unbelievable. 100 reincarnations, he was actually a reincarnator, and 100 reincarnations at that. Longao knew very well what a reincarnator meant. According to the ancestor, 9 reincarnations were the strongest among reincarnators. Long Tien had reincarnated 9 times to become a super existence that was infinitely close to the peak of martial arts. Even his ancestor, once he succeeded in reincarnating 7 times, would become a supreme divine path, or even a nirvana martial artist. That was exactly the case. Longao found it hard to imagine how high one could reach once 100 reincarnations were successful. Longao was very curious about the strength of the young man opposite him. To be able to reincarnate 100 times, one could imagine how terrifying his strength was. Senior. Waving his hand, the young man said with a smile, "You don't have to call me senior, from now on, just call me." Speaking of this, the young man seemed to have something he couldn't say. He sighed deeply again. "You should just call me senior." The young man didn't want to say more, and Longao didn't continue to ask. "Longao, with your current strength, you still can't understand the secrets of the wordless heavenly book. When you break through to the nirvana realm, I will help you. In the future, don't call me casually if there's nothing. Every time I come out, it will consume the power of my soul." After that, the young man's figure disappeared. Inside the wordless heavenly book, Longao stood alone quietly. Until now, he still hadn't digested what the young man had just said. 100 reincarnations. At this moment, Longao was only 30% convinced and 70% skeptical. Inside the massacre abyss, Yang Ling's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer, and the 3 lords of the abyss kept retreating. With no other choice, the 3 lords of the abyss could only follow Hong Lingtong's example and choose to retreat. It wasn't that the 4 lords of the abyss were afraid of Yang Ling strictly speaking, the 4 lords of the abyss were afraid of Black Wolf. If it was just Yang Ling, with the 4 lords of the abyss joining forces, it would be almost a matter of minutes to take him down. A branch of the dragon sect. "Brother Black Wolf, the 4 have all given up, what should we do now?" He nodded. Longao had already received the news that the 4 abyss lords had all retreated, so how could he not know their intentions? Retreat in order to advance. Longao also knew that the person the 4 abyss masters were truly wary of was not Yang Ling, but the 5 element slaves. After thinking about it, Longao asked, "Brother Yang, if it was a one-on-one fight, who could you deal with?" How could Yang Ling not know what Heilang meant? "Brother Black Wolf, to tell you the truth, if we were to fight one-on-one, the strength of the 5 of us is almost the same. I'm afraid it would be very difficult to determine a victor." Longao wasn't sure if Yang Ling was telling the truth. The only thing Longao could be sure of was that Yang Ling was a very sinister person. Even if he could defeat him, he believed that Yang Ling would not tell the truth. "Brother Black Wolf, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but rather than making things so troublesome for us, why don't Brother Black Wolf just let Senior deal with the 4 of them? At that time, we can easily split the massacre abyss evenly." Shameless. He despised Yang Ling in his heart. Longao certainly knew who the senior Yang Ling was referring to was. Although he didn't know what the 5 of them were thinking, he was sure that the 5 of them must have begun to suspect why the 5 element slaves didn't attack. According to the 5 element slaves' defensive power, the 5 element slave strength could definitely wipe out the 5 of them, but the result? Before the 5 of them were fully confident, they wouldn't attack rashly. Longao knew exactly what the 5 of them were thinking. So if the enemy didn't attack, he wouldn't attack, and the 5 of them would never know. Once the 5 of them found out that the 5 element slaves could only defend and couldn't attack, who knew what they would think? The 5 of them would definitely be frustrated and angry to death. "Since you and I have formed an alliance, I won't hide it from you. Like I said before, He's just my servant and is only responsible for protecting my safety. As for dominating the massacre abyss, he won't attack. I see. Yang Ling didn't quite believe it, but since Longao had said so, he couldn't continue to ask. Brother Black Wolf, then what should we do now? Since the 4 of them are playing with us, then we'll play the same trick with them. Play with them? What does that mean? Brother Yang, I want to ask if there's a forbidden area in the massacre abyss that even the 5 of you don't dare to step in. Hearing Black Wolf's words, Yang Ling was shocked, because he knew very well what the forbidden area was. Nodding his head, Yang Ling said helplessly, Brother Black Wolf, although I don't know where you got this information, I can tell you clearly that there is such a forbidden area in the massacre abyss. Other than the 5 of us, not many people know about it. The forbidden area is very dangerous. No matter who it is, once they step in, they will die without a doubt. Longao only knew about the forbidden land of the abyss from the fat man and the skinny man. As for how they knew about it, they didn't say and he didn't ask. However, Longao was sure that there must be a secret in the forbidden land of the abyss. Otherwise, Yang Ling wouldn't be so nervous. Brother Yang, I want to know about the forbidden area of the massacre abyss. Looking deeply at Black Wolf, Yang Ling finally asked, Brother Black Wolf, with your status, if I'm not wrong, you should have heard of the heavenly Daos. Since the matter had reached this point, Longao didn't hide anything. He nodded. I know of the existence of the heavenly Daos. In the martial heaven continent, the heavenly Daos are the existences that truly reach the peak of the martial path. That's right. Back then, there were 6 abyssal masters in the massacre abyss. We discovered the forbidden area together, so we discussed how to enter and see what kind of place it was. Longao didn't say anything. He just listened quietly. In the massacre abyss, the only person who could tell him about the forbidden area was probably Yang Ling. As for the other 4 abyssal masters, would they tell him about it? Without a doubt, they definitely wouldn't. Longao really wanted to know about the forbidden area. The 6 of us went to the forbidden area together, preparing to enter at the same time. However, outside the abyss, the 6 of us had an argument, and then we fought. Longao could almost guess what had happened next. Of the 6 abyssal masters, 6 had gone, but only 5 had remained. That meant that the remaining abyssal master had definitely died in the massacre abyss. As for whether the 5 of them had joined forces to kill the 6th abyssal master, or if that abyssal master had died in the forbidden area, it seemed that only the 5 of them knew. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,